Movies.
You're one of my best friends.
I know.
Yeah.
That's a nice intro. All right. Hello and welcome to Test Pattern, a podcast about people and their relationship with movies. I'm Angus Truskett, and each episode I am joined by someone I admire to talk all things film and get to know them through the movies that shape them. This episode, I'm joined by one of Australia's most beloved voices in film culture. Podcaster, comedian, film critic, actor, and dear friend, Alexei Toliopoulos. You might know Alexei from his podcast, The Last Video Store, Mic Check, the internet's only deeply committed Mike Myers podcast, or Finding Drago, or from his live show Refuse Classification with Zach Ruane, about Margaret Pomerantz's legendary Ken Park screening. And he's currently on tour of his new solo comedy show, VHS. More on that later. Not only is Alexei a genuine authority on movies, he's also someone I can and literally do spend hours talking about them with. Alexei, welcome to Test Pattern.
I think I thought it was about me for hours.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Test Pattern. Do you remember how we first met?
I remember how we first met was because we had both started podcasting at around the same time.
That's right.
You had started Hey Fam, and me and Cameron James, who's my long-term creative collaborator, and Henry Stone back then had started a podcast called The Blank Slate.
And I think he was
knew friends.
Henry.
Yeah, you and Levins knew Henry, and then because we started around the same time, we're just like, let's start a podcast beef, and then we just became friends like straight away. We were seeing like a movie together or something.
I think the first time I met you was in my house at the time, and that you and I really hit it off with that, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, just that next deeper layer of talking about things that I would normally hide from people.
I think it was you and I really clicked because we are the same level of Star Wars nerd, where we have deep knowledge, where likely if we really had to think about it, we'd probably read more Star Wars novels than regular novels from classic literature or anything.
Yeah, I probably learned to count because of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like I learned times tables.
This is how you count. Oh, yeah.
Count Dooku.
Yeah, of course, Count Dooku. But we, I think we're the same level of Star Wars nerds, where it's like deep knowledge and deep lore knowledge, unfortunately, but also we're cool. It's like we're cool people. So it was
we
like,
can look people in the eyes.
We were not. We were never in a fandom for Star Wars. We were like lone gun.
Yeah,
you know,
it was for the love of the game.
Mandalorian out there. We're Mandalorian lone gunmen.
Yeah, we were wondering the bounty was learning every member of the Jedi Council's name.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think there was a deep affection, and it was like, oh wait, you two are someone who not just Star Wars, but had that kind of knowledge and love of film and the good and the bad, and just a genuine love for it. And so there was an immediate connection. But I was trying to think. I thought that was the first time we'd met.
I think so. Yeah, I think that was it. So that was like 10 years ago now.
Oh man, I think it was like 2015. So
2015.
well, 11 years strong. And then we realized we lived near each other.
We live in each other. Yeah,
just makes a lot of sense.
And we became, I think, very good friends very quickly,
very fast. Yeah. And then immediately I think we took things off group chat.
Yeah, we had cut the other guys out. Let's go text thread.
Look, I need to ask you, and we just had lunch, full disclosure, everybody, and it was delicious.
We had a sandwich. We had a panino.
We got two. We split. We tried each other's. It was very nice.
We tried each other's paninos. And no, that's not a euphemism.
We stand for the goods. But what was the last thing you saw? You told me, you're like, fuck, I haven't seen a movie for a few days. You're getting that itch.
Yeah, because I'm on tour. Sometimes I find it hard to allow something else in.
Sure.
So the last film I actually watched, I watched The Bridges of Madison County while I was flying down to Melbourne to do the Comedy Festival Gala.
1994?
1994 Clint Eastwood film.
There
I think 94, around then. But 90s Clint Eastwood, starring him and Meryl Streep.
And it was seen as like an age gap romance, was it? Or is it just he looks old?
It's a romance film, but it's not. The age gap is not as fundamental to it as it is to other movies, but it is essentially...
It's no Graduate, it's no Rushmore.
It's just a romance, it's a really deeply felt romance film.
Had you ever seen it before?
I think I had seen it as a kid because it used to play on cable TV a lot. And I remember seeing the ads. I remember watching because I was, as a teen, going through a mild Clint Eastwood phase. And I wanted to see what else he had done outside of the genre pictures. And I was playing on TV, but I'd only seen it once. And it had not, surprisingly, returning to it was much different to what I remembered, because I remembered it as a contemporary set story. It's not.
I thought it was too.
And it's got bookends around it, where essentially it is the Meryl Streep character had grown older, passed away, and her adult children are now going through her stuff.
Interesting.
And they discover about this relationship, this affair that she had back in like the 60s when they were children. And it's really moving, powerful. I was watching on the plane fucking crying. But I'd say career best performance work from Clint. And maybe he's up there with Unforgiven as the best directorial work of his career as well. Yeah.
I recently rewatched Unforgiven. It was a big critical darling, wasn't it? Like Oscars loved.
Best Picture
Bridges.
winner.
So you watched the whole thing on a plane, one solo flight, or did you watch it
Two flights because it was a bit too long. So I watched it on the way back from Adelaide.
Did you
and
choose
then I was
a
flying to Melbourne the next day. So I go, great, can watch the last 1 hour on the flight.
Did you choose a moment to pause it, or did you let the captain decide?
The captain decided for me that day.
Oh, really?
The captain decided for me that day what time, when I'll be pausing the movie to pick it up the next day.
And was it enough to work? Like, did it leave you hanging? Was it a like a natural?
It's just a beautiful film, so just you can allow it to unfold however it needs to.
I guess what I'm getting at is intermissions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is it a legal requirement? And for those that don't know, Alexei is of Greek ancestry.
Yes, I'm of Greek ancestry.
Is it a legal requirement for longer films in Greece to have a intermission placed into it by local distributors?
No idea. I've never been to Greece as an adult, and I've never watched a movie in Greece.
I had someone I know there. It sounds like I had someone boots on ground in 07, and they watched Zodiac there.
And had a little intermission.
And had an intermission, and then they told me they had Greek grandparents, and they told me that it's very common there for films over a certain length to have, against kind of the studio's will, just like a cut intermission.
Yeah, I know they do that in some places. I didn't know that Greece did that. That's cool.
Apparently they do. I mean, they invented drama.
Yeah, exactly. They know how it works. They go, this is how it works in this country. We can't change it.
You watched it on a plane. Are you normally somebody that watches films on planes? Do you see it as an ideal setting to watch a film, or do you only think certain films can be watched on? Because I'm assuming you didn't have your own playing equipment. Was this on the back of a chair?
No,
or did you
I bring my iPad.
Okay. So that's immediately what. Okay, great. Are you someone that curates what you watch on a plane, or
it can go either way? Like sometimes on a plane. Honestly, I can do just about anything on a plane.
Oh, okay.
Where I can watch whatever, because sometimes I go, well, this is a good time to watch an art house movie because I'm just zoned in.
Okay.
And I can just be watching it. So
and this kid next to you can see.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'll tell you some of the best plane watches I've had. I watched Bloodsport on a plane going up to Brisbane to do refused classification last year.
Really?
And Bloodsport played beautifully on the plane.
I need to ask a question. Were you able to watch the whole film?
Yeah.
Do you know about Donald Trump's edit of Bloodsport?
I know about where he chops it down just to the action bits.
In the 1980s, he cut down Bloodsport to just basically, I think, the fight scenes. For a 45-minute flight, he would have to take regularly.
Yeah.
And he kind of is the original Topher Grace.
He's a Topher, mate. I'd love to see him cut some more Donald Trump cuts out
the prequels, just him.
But I watched Bloodsport on the plane. It was such a pleasurable experience because it's just it's primal cinema, because it's all about montage. It's all about big emotions, masculine emotions around friendship and I guess success in like trying to literally win tournaments and stuff. And it's just like so primal, and it just played beautifully in a very emotional way as well.
Do you think that means like the screen doesn't have to be large, but because everything about this film is so big, you're picking it up still?
Exactly.
You can watch it over someone's shoulder.
You could.
Yeah.
And so like I watch a lot of action movies. I love a documentary on a flight as well.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I watched the... What's the famous OJ?
Oh yeah,
story
the Made in America.
I watched that on a flight to Los Angeles.
Wow.
And that was quite interesting when like we were touching down in LA, and I just seen like 6 hours of street riots from the mid-90s in LA with the Rodney King stuff.
You landed fired up.
Yeah, I was like, let's go. Where's that jewelry store?
But then often I like to be at the mercy of the Virgin the Virgin selection sometimes.
So you acquiesce,
and that's where Bridges of Madison County was on there.
Right.
I go, this is the only movie I want to watch on here was Bridges of Madison County.
Yeah.
And that's why I went back to it.
I'm one of those snobs that's like iPad out, download 20 films, watch half of one for the whole trip around. And just waste so much data, downloads, storage. But I like to be in control. But I kind of curated last time I went to Japan, I think I'd like mainlined a couple Ghibli back to back just to get in the zone. I like to theme it. Yeah. I remember when I left, one year I went on a road trip across America from like San Francisco to New York. And look, what can I say? The patriotism worked on me. And on the flight back, I did a double headliner of Lincoln and Zero Dark 30, which at the time were probably the most American movies. I kind of like to get ready for the country. You know what I mean?
Sometimes you need to. The worst that I've done myself was when I was going to Canberra last year on tour, I got the bus. And I was like, what am I going to watch? And I had downloaded Abbas Kiarostami's certified copy, the art house classic from 2010, starring Juliette Binoche and William Schimmel. And I was like, I've been going through an Iranian cinema thing recently. I was like, I haven't watched an Abbas for a while. Let's go watch this Abbas. And I go, what am I doing? I'm on this bus watching this art house movie. I go, this is the wrong choice. I made a wrong choice here. So sometimes it's like you can do it, sometimes you can't. But when I was flying to LA recently, to and from, I was on American Airlines and they just had the worst selection of films.
Really?
Like not enough new stuff. So I was like, Roof Man was like the newest movie I was watching.
Yeah, that's like a perfect 7 out of 10 movie, I think.
Yes.
And like, I don't want it to be an 8 out of 10.
You want to get a 7 out of 10, but it will become an 8 out of 10 in the sky, you know? But then I'm like watching Hunger Games Ballad of Serpents and Birds or whatever. And I go, my God, I immediately forgot I watched it. I'm watching the A Quiet Place prequel. And I had to rack my brain that I'd seen it, like, as I landed, trying to log my Letterboxd and stuff like that. But because there was a screen in front of me, I didn't want to put my iPad out because I'm like, there's a screen here, I may as well utilize it. So that's plain viewing.
So you're at the mercy of the airline, the
airline curation.
Yeah, I think they've gotten better too with remember there was that like, there's always airline versions of films. I don't think that's such a thing anymore.
Nah, never, right? You don't see it anymore.
You don't see it anymore. Look,
I don't even know if really in our lifetime once it stopped being the shared screen.
Yeah.
Where you got your own individual screen and selection. Yeah, because I remember going to America when I was like probably 14 and watching the movie maybe you remember the title, the Jet Li Bob Hoskins movie with Morgan Freeman called Danny the Dog on the Plane.
Yeah, I know the one.
But what's it called? It's called something Unleashed. It's called Unleashed. Yeah. And I remember watching that, and that was like definitely not.
It was edited.
It was not edited. I was like,
oh wow!
I'm seeing so much crazy shit.
Yeah, I think an airplane movie is a very particular type of film, but I think there's a lot of emotions when you're in the sky.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like a hospital, a plane. Yeah. You know what I mean? Everyone's there. You're all trying to, you're all there for a particular purpose. Yes. I'm not sure if you're returning, if you're leaving.
If you're leaving home or returning home.
Yeah, so there's a lot of emotions, and I do see that it enhances or can even maybe mark films as something that you don't want to engage with again. I've never seen Lincoln or Zero Dark 30 again, and that's kind of like, I kind of like that. Wow. I saw it after 6 weeks.
You bookended the American experience. You go, this is how it was. This is how it is.
How crazy, right? But it was all by design. Yeah. I was like, I love doing that. When I was in France recently, I remember putting on like, why can't I think of the name? A famous 90s French film.
Le Big Bleu.
No, more like shaved heads. La
Haine.
Yeah, La
Haine.
I like to do corny ass.
Yeah,
like, all right,
love that movie.
Yeah. I like to do corny ass.
Can I say, La Haine is like one of the most selected movies on the last video store.
Is it really?
I remember Rich Pepiat, who directed the Kneecap film. Mm-hmm. He picked that. And also Suffer from Hilltop Hoods picked it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Two moguls of the rap world from very different parts. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Shout out to La Haine. Shout out to that great fact that always gets dropped where it's not actually a mirror in the opening scene. It is in fact a double.
Yeah, how cool.
I love hearing that come up constantly. Thank you, Vincent Cassel. Is it Vincent?
Vincent Cassel.
Vincent Cassel. Look, I need to ask Alexei. where did you grow up?
I grew up in the inner west of Sydney.
Where we are now.
Where we are now.
This show is proudly recorded from.
I started my life in Leichhardt, which is a very Mediterranean, Italian, Greek neighborhood areas. So I grew up there, Dulwich Hill, that kind of area.
Is there a movie that reminds you of that early phase? Maybe it's because there was something it was in the house, like a VHS or a DVD, depending on your age.
Well, there are two that remind me of that place and that time. Obviously, the big one, and I've talked about it a lot, is Looking for Ella Brandi.
In fact, I believe you were on the recent 4K remaster interviewing not just Ella Hooper, not just Kit
Curry, Melina Marchetta, Kate Woods, the writer and director of the film, and also
which was filmed a few streets away from where we are now in Haberfield.
Yeah. So that's a film that when I watch, I go, that's my life growing up. And when I rewatch it, it feels like looking at like a photo album of my life. The other person I interviewed on it was Hamish Cowan, who does the cover of With or Without You during the funeral in that movie.
R.I.P. Birdie and Son.
But I that's a film that I really love.
Yeah.
If I really think about it, I go, that's probably my favorite film of all time because it's just has such an emotional connection. I watch it and I see where I grew up. I see the people that I knew. I see my life where I go, I grew up with my mum and my grandma in the house, not unlike Josie's, the character's life in that film. So much my experience. The other one that really reminds me of it because it was filmed in Leichhardt around the time I was born is the documentary Rats in the Ranks, which to me is one of the greatest documentaries of all time.
I think it's getting a re-release.
It had a re-release on DocPlay the last 2 years.
I think it's coming out.
I'm hosting a screening of it at the new Australian Sydney Cinematheque.
Okay, that's where I saw it.
It's but that's a film that really, when I watch it, I go, that's where I grew up looked like when I was growing up.
Can you remember like buildings and stuff while watching it?
The best one I remember is there are many scenes. The film Rats in the Ranks is essentially about a local election in Leichhardt Council for the mayor of Leichhardt, who at that time was Larry Hand, who is a larger-than-life figure. And in Rats in the Ranks, obviously, because of that, a lot of it is filmed and set around, it's a documentary filmed around Town Hall in Leichhardt. Where I grew up, I saw it every single day of my life, the Town Hall. But more importantly, there is the best stuff in that film is their secret kind of meetings that they have at Bar Italia, which is an iconic Australian cafe or iconic Italian cafe in this Italian neighborhood.
They don't take cards.
They don't take cards still to this day.
I went there recently and they don't do that.
But that is like a symbol of my childhood.
Okay.
All the way I went to high school next door to it basically.
Oh, no way.
And so Bar Italia is a big part of my life growing up. And even better, when you watch Rats in the Ranks now, their local federal member at that time, who is still the local federal member today, is someone who is known now as the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese. And he refuses to be on camera during the movie. So there's these secret meetings with Anthony Albanese that are not filmed at Bar Italia, where he goes to have his secret meetings. And you go, that is the most like Leichhardt thing ever.
That's so funny. I need to do a rewatch.
Come watch it at the Sydney Cinematheque.
You know what? I think I just might.
Yeah.
When is that?
May sometime.
Yeah, sick. Do you think that growing up in Australia, not just Leichhardt or the inner west, do you think that shaped your love of Australian film? Do you
Absolutely.
Why is that? Why do you think some people have this apprehension to watch Australian cinema or engage with it or even know that it exists? How did you find that like a difficult thing? Was it very easy? Were you just like, I want to see stories about where I'm from?
I think definitely I loved seeing stories about where I was from. Those stories really resonated with me. I think as an Australian, I've always been open to Australian art because it's stuff that resonates with me the deepest, because it is... Very often film can be two things. I say that I've said this, I'll say it a million times, brother, that the silver screen, sometimes it is a portal that you can enter that takes you to other worlds. And sometimes the silver screen is a mirror that can reflect back on your own life. And I think Australian film for me has always been that, where I can see stuff that I recognize, stuff that speaks deeply to the cultures that I've grown up in, but also to the Australian experience of, seeing indigenous cultures on screen and, being being able to experience art that is unique to this country because we have this storytelling lineage of thousands of years. So to see that evolve into cinematic art and cinematic storytelling has been a real privilege to grow up seeing. Like that, I think, is one thing that makes Australian cinema so unique and so vibrant and so vital to the art of this country, but also vital to Australia on a world stage, because that's the one thing that can be completely unique to this country.
Yeah, I mean the first feature film.
Exactly, first feature film
120 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, I think 100 years ago now. Yeah, 120 years ago, like currently.
Yeah.
The
Story of the
Kelly Gang. Yeah.
First feature drama, not documentary or sideshow attraction.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's always been a thing, but it's different because I think for people our age, we had Margaret and David on TV.
Very formative critics.
Formative critics. They're my heroes. They've shaped how I see film and how I want to express a love for film.
Mm-hmm. Was that kind of your first example or kind of first instance of seeing people talking about film in a particular way that made you think, oh, I also want that vocabulary or want that knowledge? Because when I stop a film or walk out of a cinema, the people I'm with aren't maybe still in that cinema, but I'm still in there thinking about and processing it. Were they kind of your gateway into that world of wanting
They were my gateway into the world of cinema.
Films a bit more.
Yeah, they were my gateway just into cinema.
Okay.
Like many memories I have of film are based seeing. I have just as many memories of seeing films as I was seeing them talk about those films.
Yeah.
So they were my heroes. They introduced me to the world of film, and especially to that world of Australian film, because they really championed Australian film. And I think that's
I used
what
to tape it. I remember when I was out, which I think it was Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights. Trying to remember when it used to air on SBS.
It was Wednesdays on SBS, I think.
Yeah, I remember on Wednesday nights taping it so I could see the reviews for the films that were coming out the next day.
And so they were my entry point into Australian film, and so Australian to love and admire and to share Australian film has always been in my lexicon of film, and now I see it that there is, in a mainstream way, there's not that same level of support for Australian film, which is very much why I've made it a lot of my duty to do
champion
that.
This thing champion it. And talk about it as much as you can and highlight.
I think we are really making great films in this country. But then, something like A Bird Eater, which is an excellent independent film, perhaps not getting the mainstream attention that it should be receiving. Even the ACTA Awards only gave it one nomination for Best Independent Film. I think it won, but just one nomination. It's like one of the best shot Australian films, one of the best edited Australian films,
debut film,
best directed Australian films, and it's not getting even that attention within the industry.
It's
those kind of things like that where I go, well, if I can introduce it to people of my generation and younger, I go, well, they will gain a lot from being able to see Australian film from the country they live in that can express things that they feel and they are seeing and express the world that they are living in. Then it is my duty to be able to get them to feel that resonance, to be able to feel that and discover that.
Yeah. I hear you. There is something to be said too, and I know Australia is very guilty of this. Hearing somebody from overseas talking about an Australian classic, and then I can probably count most people who like the movie Wake and Fright. Probably the first time they'd heard it was when Quentin Tarantino was a talking head in a documentary.
Exactly.
It's such an Australian trait, which is so sad that we need to kind of get that approval almost from somebody like a statesman from another country that's like, hey kid, you're all right, ruffle hair. You know what I mean? So I really love that value of you, and I do see it as this, and it's very fitting that you portrayed one of them in a on-stage performance last year, but you are being this conduit for the spirit of what At the Movies and the movie show did. I think it's very admirable.
Yeah,
because it's very easy to get caught up in the weekly global releases of the same blockbusters, the same that, but we do need to carve out space. And I think in the last 10 years in Australia, there has been many active efforts to do that with a lot of guys. We have such a great canon of Australian cinema. We have such a great talent pool of actors and actresses and filmmakers. And I do see it being cool, dare I say, to kind of explore that now?
I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I keep working for it, I keep striving for it, and then you see it, like you can strive an inch, you can kind of make an inch, but it's just like, you know, I think without a big mainstream platform that's doing it, it's harder, you know? Like that's something that, you know, hopefully in my lifetime I can achieve. Do you mean like a
platform like a Margaret and David
something
platform?
like that,
do you think something like that still works though? Or do you think it's
there's ways to do it. I've thought about it a lot and I go, I think there's a way that it can be achieved and it doesn't have to be that different from how it used to be.
Yeah.
I think that it can happen. I think that will happen, but it's just like and I just think that it is time and people are ready for something like that. And I think that people do need and will like a localized version of that because they're already engaging with stuff from internationally that are in that space.
Yeah.
But what does that tell you? It's just like you see, it's one of those things I find frustrating where people get stuck on like, because they exist reading film Twitter or Reddit or some shit.
A bubble.
They live in that weird bubble, but they're in Australia, so they get annoyed when something's not out here. But then every film has a different distribution story and how to get it to an audience. And they're like, you know, they go, well, why can't I see this now? I deserve to see this now. And I go, well, you'll see it. You can go to a film festival and you could have already seen this movie.
You could have seen it 6 months ago.
You could have seen it and they get stuck on like, well, it's on Netflix in America. How come we don't have the rights to May, December in Australia or something?
That was a big one, wasn't it?
It played like sold out screenings at multiple film festivals. If you're engaged with film on your local level, you would be knowing about these things instead of being engaged with it on an American level instead of your own. You're missing out.
It's really interesting. I've never thought of that as a local level. And you're right. It is like anything, like music, with literature, with all art. There is obviously the global sphere. There's the online space, which I guess is, especially with the advent of streaming, it has shrunken the distance in a way, metaphorically, between places and getting day and date for like slop. But you're right. Film festivals are still super important.
Yeah, super important.
They like I remember seeing like, you know, there's films like last year at Sydney Film Festival, we had it was Just an Accident and Surat were playing, and then both of them were nominated for Best Picture.
Same as The Secret
Best
Agent.
International Picture.
Yeah.
Sorry, and Secret Agent, which was nominated for both. And
Sentimental Value as well.
Oh,
I think, and what was the other nominee for Best International? There's one more that...
Was it at Sydney Film Festival?
I'm not sure. I can't remember what film. What's the fifth film?
I forget. I know those four.
Let me quickly look it up.
It's the one I didn't see.
The other film was The Voice of 100 Job.
Oh, yeah.
I've not seen that yet, but I don't know if
a screener if you want to watch it.
Yeah, I can't remember if it played Sydney Film Festival. I'm pretty sure it played Melbourne, but
I think it didn't do. I think it was Melbourne.
Yeah, but like, you know, all those films have been available to see in Australia in quite a big way.
Like as far as 8 to 9 months ago as well.
Exactly.
Which is
So I think that's a kind of thing where it's like if you're engaging on a local level, you're seeing films at these festivals, and there's not a better way to see a film than at a film festival because you're there with like-minded people experiencing something together for the first time. Then you can have great conversations with people you know if you're going with friends,
strangers,
or making new friends, talking to people there.
I love
it's
nothing
such
more
a great
than,
way to build community around film.
I love nothing more than like the matinee at the State Theatre, and you're sitting next to an octogenarian
who's brought in like a jug of soup that they're drinking from,
and they're just like asking you what the movie is you're about to see. And you're like, well, I don't know. I'm also watching it here. I remember I saw it. I think it was on the closing night. They got a late edition, like addition of Eddington, which had just screened at Cannes, I think. Then, and I've never seen so many people over a certain age like leave a cinema. Just one after the other. It was amazing, and I was like, "Oh, this is special." That's why I love festivals. Like, I think it was the second public screening in the world of that film, so I didn't know anything about it besides like, you know, festival buzz. So it was so interesting to see just how the Sydney Festival film crowd was so split on that, and then there was like, you know, a microcosm of how everyone was about that film. I found, which I love that film, by the way. I think it was.
I've only seen it once at that screening. I didn't fully click for me, but I think I was seeing it at the wrong time for me. So I'm looking forward to seeing it again because I really admire all of Ari Aster's work. It's undeniable. It's undeniable what he's doing for me.
One of the like contemporary greats. I love what you said about the local level, and I want to talk to you what I think is the most local level, the home library. I think that is even more local than what we were just talking about, and I know that you are a big believer and a big collector of physical media. was physical media, and not just film, but I guess records or CDs or tape, anything. Was that something that was throughout your house growing up? Were there things that you would pick up, books, gravitate towards, and that would shape you?
I am but the next generation in a lineage of collectors.
Is this so?
Yes, my father and his father were both extreme physical media collectors.
So you're the third generation physical collector? Wow.
Different forms. So my grandfather, my dad's dad, he is or was, he's been dead for like 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
He was your truest form of a working class intellectual, where he was he worked in the unions. He was a misso.
What's a misso?
The miscellaneous workers union.
Right.
So he was a misso. So he
it's like the misso's home tonight. Do you want to go?
He was a housewife. Yeah, he was a misso. But he was a true working class intellectual.
Okay.
Where he was a union guy, but he also reviewed books for newspapers.
Oh, amazing.
And so he had this incredible library of books that he'd reviewed. And dude, actually one of them was a book called Mafia. And I remember it because I was always interested in crime, because I was interested in crime cinema as a young teen. And I remember pulling that book off and reading it, and had my grandfather's printed out review in it. So he'd written like his review in the newspaper, he'd cut it out and put it in the book. So all these old books, he had his old reviews in them from the newspaper. And in that one, I can't remember the name of, the author's name was something Gage. And then I was like, I'm curious about this. And I looked it up, and that author that wrote this book of that Mafia that my grandfather had reviewed is the father of the comic book writer Lucas Gage.
Wait, Lucas Gage is the actor.
He's the actor. No, Christopher Gage or something like that. But it's this famous comic book writer that Levin's got me into.
Oh, no way.
I was like, wow, to see like this like weird little microcosm. So that was my grandfather. My father is for his profession, he is a university professor in the field of human geography, which is close to anthropology. It's about people and their relationship to the place that they live.
Okay.
So he also published many books and stuff and many articles. So he had a big library of books, but then also my dad's interest was in music. He was a musician as well, and he had... My dad had the most insane... Played in bands. He played in a local folk band before I was born called the Tempe Tipsters.
From Tempe, which is another inner west, for those that don't know. Classic inner west suburb.
Neighborhood.
You've got an IKEA. You've got a tip, now. And you've got an airport, essentially.
So he was...
Harry's de Wheels.
Harry's de Wheels. Cafe de Wheels.
Cafe de Wheels.
So he was a musician, and he had an incredible music library and very eclectic taste. Like, he was open to everything.
Was he a medium man? Like, did he go, I'm locking in on vinyl, or I'm locking in on CD?
He's always been everything. He still has a huge CD collection, and he had everything. He just lent me all these CDs from My Friend the Chocolate Cake Not Drowning Waving. They're not on Spotify, because he doesn't want to have his music on Spotify.
They were albums that were absolutely thrashed in my house by my parents growing up when I was like 4 or 5 or 6. I remember those. I remember the covers distinctly.
And so he has an incredible vinyl collection, CD collection. But when I was a young man, can you guess what it would have been?
Wait.
He had another collection that was...
Laserdisc?
No. For music.
Oh, mini disc.
It was mini disc.
Really?
My dad was a mini disc guy, and he would go record concerts with his mini disc recorder.
So he was like a bootlegger.
So he was a bootlegger. So he had...
Do they sell commercial mini discs here? Like, because I remember
we had a few, but they were very expensive.
They were so rare.
He had a great mini disc player, and he had bought Miles Davis Kind of Blue.
Yeah.
But he also...
So they're doing the like remastering of classics. And I remember like...
But mini disc was more for him recording his concerts.
That's amazing.
He'll buy blank mini disc, record concerts like Bob Dylan concerts, like all these kind of bands.
So sick.
And so that's where he would listen to those.
So he would just go like in his jacket pocket, hit record. That's so cool. Yeah.
So I'm the third in a lineage of collectors.
So for you growing up and being like, what I love about a physical collection, and I think this is true I haven't met your father or your grandfather, may he rest in peace, but it is, I hope he's causing hell up there, mate.
I hope he was a prankster, so if he's resting, he's not doing what he loves.
I hope he's meeting those mafiosos he wrote about so tellingly. Look, even where we're sitting now, I think there's something to be said about sharing yourself with your physical collection. Was that true for them? You think they were very proud?
They were very proud.
So
they
you
had
grew
it on
up
display.
then with this like notion of like what I kind of love about that, because I did grow up in a household too that was very much a champion of books, of music.
May I say third generation collector, probably third generation of undiagnosed something.
Some form of
Bauer
autism or spectrum
or something.
Yeah, that's what we'll call it.
But it's like a nest. Like you want to build a nest of the things you love, like a bowerbird.
It's like you said about the silver screen. You know, we see ourselves. I see myself in this room. I see yourself in your room. But it's like,
for me as well, it's become like an archive for me, especially the time that I grew up in, before streaming and before even illegal piracy, which was such a big part of screen culture in our time in Australia.
Getting a hard drive, going to someone's house and getting rips of things that you would never be able to find.
Pre to that, the only way you could see classic films was through physical collection and physical media, video store or otherwise. So that was just that's part of my process is to own a film, to collect its knowledge as well.
It's really interesting to see that there has been, in the last few years, there's been many a think piece that it's like, is this the return of physical media? Because in
many ways we are in a golden age of physical media.
We are, because I think we've been duped
exclusive
by streaming in a way that it's kind of like the sheen has worn off that we were kind of promised, like a decade-old sheen of streaming is going to fix everything, and then obviously we've had a decade to learn about like the rigidity of licensing laws and things being available in different regions and things having a very limited shelf life, which doesn't make sense in a digital space. But here we are. So there has been this big swing back to physical. I know your collection is ever growing. Do you remember what the first conscious film was that you were conscious, but you being like, I am going to build a collection? This is the first, maybe it was a disc, maybe it was a tape, where you're like, this is where the collecting begins. This is where I want my taste to be known. Do you know what title it was?
I can remember what they were, because VHS, it was not my decisions. Like that was me asking my parents to buy.
We all grew up
with
with The Lion King in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
so E.T., all these
the
things.
Home Alone. So
I had VHS, but when DVD... when we made the jump to DVD and I started being a little bit in control of like, I'm going to spend my money on these. I remember the first two purchases. One was via, I believe, a Pizza Hut deal where you got a DVD from Pizza
X-Men
Hut.
1.5.
I got Charlie's Angels.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that movie still to this day. That was the first one.
Were you that night, do you think you were wanting a pizza or a film more? And which one came first?
Either one, that spherical shape, that flat circle satisfied my needs that night.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
They satisfied my needs that night, whatever they were.
Yeah.
The other ones I remember was Target in Leichhardt Market Town had a deal that was 3 DVDs for $50 or something.
Yeah. Still pretty good price,
Yeah, kind of. It's still,
if it's Blu-ray, then maybe.
Blu-ray, beautiful.
Yeah.
But then it was 3 Disney movies. And so the ones that I wanted, I got 3. And I got My Favorite Martian, the Christopher Lloyd, Jeff Daniels
remake of the
TV
60s
show.
series.
Yeah, 60s TV show. The other one I got was Inspector Gadget.
Another remake starring Matthew Broderick as the titular inspector.
Yep, and then the other
Dylan
one,
Montgomery as
I think it was
Dermot.
Is it Dermot Montgomery or Rupert Everett?
Oh, it's Rupert Everett. Sorry. Same, different tall, dark, handsome leading man. Yeah.
And then the third one I got was the one movie that I hadn't seen, and it was Operation Dumbo, Drop starring Ray Liotta and Danny Glover.
Also,
and Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary is who I'm
Dennis
thinking
Leary.
of. Yeah, and that was inspired by a true story, I believe.
Inspired by a true story. And he's very accurate.
Still a movie I have not seen. How is it?
No idea. I can't remember it at all.
But that was when you were like, yep, Spine's out. I am collecting.
I'm collecting.
I think mine was The Matrix. I remember because we got a DVD player in 2000.
The Matrix Reloaded from EB Games.
Had you seen the first?
Yeah, I've seen the first, and then I saw Reloaded in cinemas, and then I was like, I'm going to trade in a game and bought The Matrix Reloaded on DVD.
I'm going to trade in Enter the Matrix starring Jada Pinkett Smith.
That I would never trade. I loved that. I loved that game so much.
Do you think that game and the kind of multi-platform storytelling that the Matrix sequels, obviously I'm talking Animatrix.
Yes.
There's a great run of comics that also filled in some of the blanks.
Path of Neo.
Path of Neo and obviously Enter the Matrix. Do you think we had peaked as a society then as a kind of
We peaked as
auteur-led...
Sydney.
And we peaked as Sydney because
Yeah.
the Olympics had just happened
Yeah.
also. Do you think that's when like faceted storytelling peaked and we've never been able to come close again?
I don't think anything has ever come close to the multi-tiered multimedia experience of the Matrix.
The full motion
the closest would be
videos-
Star Wars.
Yeah.
But there's a difference.
There's a difference,
and I can't really articulate what the difference is, but I think it is that auteur-led thing.
I also
where
think
Star
it's-
Wars obviously had Lucas for a long time,
Yeah.
but the Matrix was the Wachowskis.
It was just Wachowskis, yeah.
And like that, there was something so pure about every one of those things being a deep expression of self.
It felt
but
like-
then when they allowed other artists in, there was an auteuristic approach from them too. Like you watch the Animatrix,
Yeah.
you can't tell me every single one of those isn't an auteur-led thing, not by the Wachowskis, but by new artists.
100%.
I fucking love the Animatrix.
Oh, same here.
I can't believe how serious I sound whenever I talk about the Matrix. I just go, yes, let me lock in. I love talking about
love
the
it.
Matrix.
I think the biggest difference is what you just said. Yes, it is the Wachowskis' DNA through and through, but also the now when something like this would be attempted, it's just all made on in a computer, but they were using the sets built in Sydney and had an entire second unit crew set up, shooting scenes and giving it the same attention as detail.
Absolutely.
With Jada Pinkett Smith, I'm forgetting who the other character is in the game.
He's Ghost in the game.
Yeah.
But it's a local actor.
It's a local actor.
Yeah.
So these people are getting the same treatment, and it just felt less, even though it is a tie-in, it just didn't feel like something that's entirely separate. Like it did feel like there was good intentions. You know what I mean?
So
You know
good,
what it
that
is?
game.
It's the good intentions, where I think now if something like that was to happen,
It's cynical approach
there would be
to
an eye roll,
extract
there would
more
be
money as well.
100%. But back then it felt really...
Or more engagement.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that you didn't have to play that game, but if you wanted to, they wanted it to be great.
And you know what? I dare say it made the Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions better films having
Yes.
played the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you invested, because you see Niobe up on screen and go, that's me.
That's me.
That's me. I'm that character.
I love that girl. I love
Yeah.
that G.I. Jane joke.
Exactly. How dare he?
But no, I think there is something to be said about just how, even though it was like Warner Brothers, I think, pumping those games out, it did feel free of cynicism. Back on DVD, something I guess something that millennials will know is, I guess earlier generations, it's akin to waking up and seeing static on the television,
Yeah.
and you've slept and you've fallen asleep watching something and you've woken up.
If you're in England, you're seeing that little girl and the clown.
You see a girl in the clown. If you're maybe in Australia for a while, there was, shout out to this show, a test pattern on the screen sometimes. But something that our generation grew up with is like you've put something in the PlayStation 2, which was my first DVD player in my bedroom, and I've fallen asleep while watching, and I've woken up to a menu on loop, and it could be 5 hours after I'd fallen off, after the film has ended. Is there one that lives rent-free in your head that you can just... You know more than you could quote the film itself almost?
The one that I remember vividly was, because it was loud, was Austin Powers' Spy Who Shagged Me.
Okay, the
And it would just
second-
be like him dancing around and stuff. Like, it's really loud. Like, it's so loud.
Like the decibel level is far more greater than
Then
the
louder
than the
than
actual
movie.
film
Yeah,
itself.
it's just loud. It's him going, all right, hang on a tick. Just love him. It's like, all right.
And was it like, again, much like Enter the Matrix, was it they'd shot footage explicitly? Do you
For
think?
sure. Yeah,
I
for
miss
sure.
I miss this.
You got to do stuff like that.
I miss that. The streaming is so like business oriented.
Yeah.
You hit play. They don't even want you to watch it.
No.
They just want you to
Exactly.
they want your data or something.
Before that, now, on a Blu-ray, a lot of the time it's a generic menu or something.
I don't like that either.
DVD. The other one I loved, also Mike Myers, Wayne's World.
Was it a TV and a
looked
channel?
like the menu guide on a cable channel.
That's what it was.
Yeah, on cable TV.
And you had to kind of navigate between. Some of the art of the DVD menu. You're right. Some great DVD menus that come to mind for me. Obviously, the Phantom Menace, the
Phantom
prequels,
Menace, Lord of the Rings,
the Lord
as
of the
well.
Rings.
How you could find the Easter eggs and
That's
stuff
right.
on there. Yeah.
You can make Yoda, I believe, breakdance by entering
Oh,
1138
of
on the Attack of the Clones menu. But another one that's near and dear to me that I also think set the standard for, and it was maybe the fourth film I added to my collection.
Yeah.
Growing up as a 15-year-old boy was the Fight Club special edition. Which came in the faux brown paper bag wrapped with the FBI warning at the start, which meant nothing because we didn't have FBI warnings here. But I liked that Fox didn't localize it.
I remember buying the Blu-ray for Fight Club and watching that. and you put the Blu-ray in, and it comes up with the menu for the Drew Barrymore movie Never Been Kissed.
Mate, really?
And I remember putting that in and going, what the fuck? I've got this dodgy disc. And then it like rips apart and the Fight Club menu starts to go, oh, you had me.
Ari Aster made
I was
the
like
menu.
about to go take it in and return it. Excuse me, this is a faulty disc.
That's really funny. Do you have a favorite, speaking of DVD menus? Is there a DVD? Like, again, I guess we are getting a little nostalgic here speaking about this medium, which doesn't really... While we are in a physical renaissance, but I do even think like special features have taken a backseat because it seems to be now special features are essentially released as the film hits cinemas now, just as on YouTube or TikTok to make people go watch the film. But it used to work in reverse. You'd have to just you'd have to go watch the film and then like a year later watch the special features. Are there any formative documentaries or special features or commentaries that you think really set the bar high? That
definitely the making of the Phantom Menace.
I believe it's called The Beginning.
Yeah, that is an incredible special feature. It's so unguarded. Like, it's unbelievable that there's a document of this film that lives so controversially in the world that was a bonus feature on a DVD. Like, that's amazing. The other ones that I loved were obviously the Lord of the Rings because they're so expansive.
The extended edition.
Documentaries.
Many people's equivalent of film school.
Absolutely. Yeah. Such a film school equivalent. Also, the ones from the Robert Rodriguez...
of course, the Dollar Film School.
The Dollar Film School stuff that was on the El Mariachi Desperado.
And Mexico.
And Once Upon a Time in Mexico on those DVDs. Essential to me growing up. The other ones that I really, really appreciated that were in a little bit of a different space were on the Halo DVD bonus, Halo 2 DVD bonus.
But that came with the game?
That came with the game.
Okay.
The making of Halo.
Oh my God.
I thought was so cool. Like, those were interesting to see in a different field, like to see how Halo started, how it was made. Loved that.
You've unlocked a core memory of me, which on the Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, the second disc, came with a documentary on how they made the game.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about that for something like maybe 20 years.
Yeah.
And you've just reminded me of it. It was so cool.
I'd love to watch those again. But another one that, a commentary that really has stuck with me, because I would have seen it when I first saw the film. And it's a key film to my sense of comedy when I started being interested in comedy on more than just a level to laugh at.
Which is where I will forever be.
Yeah, where you're trapped. Yeah. But I remember seeing...
I've seen the Hangover trilogy. I know. I like where I am, you know.
But I picked up from the video store I worked at, I picked up the DVD copy of The Odd Couple, based on the Neil Simon play, and starring Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, who, seeing that film, they became my heroes. And I watched all the films that they made together.
The Grumpy Old Man, The Grumpier Old Man. All the Odd Couple Part 2 that they made in the 90s. Loved that movie. And there was a DVD commentary by their sons. That commentary, I think, is so sweet because they're hearing these two boys who are now older than I am, they're back then, and they're talking about their fathers who at that time had passed away. So they're getting to relive these memories about their father's friendship while watching this movie that their dads made together. And I think that's like, there's something about that commentary that I think is so beautiful to have that idea. You're a DVD producer and you go, the guys are dead. Why don't they get their two sons? Because they were best friends in real life for their entire life. To have that thought to then make that, I think is so beautiful. Like, what a beautiful thing to include on the DVD. And then you listen to it and you get this insight into who they were as not just craftsmen, as men. Because you can find that fucking out anywhere. They were the two of the most famous actors of their time. You can read hundreds of interviews with them. But to hear what they were like as fathers, there's something about that that's so beautiful to be attached to the movie The Odd Couple. So that's my favorite audio commentary of all time. I didn't know that existed.
That's why every time anyone asks me a favorite audio commentary, I go, it's that.
That's a great...
It's so beautiful that exists.
Do you think one day maybe Max Landis will do one for the Twilight Zone film?
Oh, God. We said, yeah, thank God that my dad did this, so I'm not the only bad thing that he ever did.
We can only hope. You said there that was something you got at a video store?
The video store that I worked at. Okay. I remember that was where I really... I worked at a video store from the age of 16 until I was 20. And I worked at another one after that too. But that was the key period of my life. My first job, 16 years old, working at Mondo Movies in Annandale, which was an art house cult speciality store with an incredible collection.
Was that a dream job for you? Was that
still my dream job? That's why I started my podcast, to be a video store clerk again.
But that particular store, were you like, that's the one I want to work at because of the library, because of the customer base? Or
to be honest, I got the job because the owners were Greek and they knew my mum and my aunties and stuff. And then I was a little film
rats
nerd.
In the ranks.
Exactly, the rats in the ranks. And but also because I was a supreme nerd. And I remember having an interview with John Papadakis, who was the owner. And he was a film lover. Yeah. Maybe not quite a cinephile, but a film lover. But he knew how to cinephilic audience. So he was getting in lots of great imports and he cared deeply about film. And I remember being interviewed, and I remember he said, he was like, I'm just going to test you. And he asked me some question about Woody Allen, and I just knew it straight away. And I could he's made so many great films. And I was like, I'm like 16 years old. And we go, of course he's made Annie Hall and Hannah and Her Sisters and movies that everybody knows. But might I recommend Deconstructing Harry? And he was like, you've got the job, boy.
Because I think that was another reason why you and I bonded immediately, because I, from the age of 15 to 20, worked in a video store. Yeah. And you're kind of just absorbing films that you've not heard of, some that you would never watch, but you're completely aware of the crew, the cast, the poster. You can name the top 3 billing actors.
Exactly.
And you kind of become this IMDb trivia version of your walking, talking encyclopedia. And that was people ask me, like, when did you get into film? And I was always a kid that loved movies, but it was that point at 15 or so where I realized I could express myself and my identity through my particular films that I loved, or particular directors or actors. And being in a video store and being surrounded was so integral to that. And no moment is more integral, I think, is than when you're given a shelf with your name on it and you start to get curating. Did you have an Alexei's favorites at the shop?
Okay. It rotated a little bit, but the constants in there were Midnight Cowboy, Serpico, Say Anything, because I was like a teenager. I was like, I want the teens that are coming to the store that know that I'm a teenager to also see the best films that they can see at that level too.
Sure. So Say Anything. Is that 86, John Cusack, or earlier?
Maybe even later.
It's, right.
John Cusack, Ione Skye, and I go and John Mahoney as her dad.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, you've definitely seen the imagery of John Cusack holding a boombox above his head.
And I think, to me,
and her dad's involved with like something dodgy.
And John Mahoney plays her dad, a beautiful performance.
Yeah.
But to me, those are three great performances. I go, teens can love this movie because it's aimed at their level. Trying to think what else I had in there. Saturday Night Fever, that was another one of my favorite movies as a teenager. That was on the shelf.
Yeah.
Gosh, those are the ones I really remember. Glenn Ross. I had Glenn Ross in there.
Speaking of Jack Lemmon.
Yeah, speaking of Jack Lemmon.
I saw a live performance of Glenn Ross on Broadway.
Oh my God, this is my biggest regret. Is this the one from...
Alan Alda?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey Tambor.
Oh no, the one that I didn't go... Maybe it's the same one. The one that I was in New York for...
This was 2005, so maybe it was a different...
No, it's the next one. The one that I was in town for... And I
think Liev Schreiber was in my one as well.
Only regret in my life that I didn't go see this.
Who was in it?
And I went to go see fucking... So I'll tell you what it was.
Yeah.
It was Shelley Levine, originally in the movie played by Jack Lemmon.
Yeah.
And this was played by fucking Ricky Roma himself, Al Pacino.
Unbelievable.
And the other cast member I can remember was Bobby Cannavale playing Ricky Roma. And... I went and saw
so funny having Ricky Roma in.
Dude. And I went and saw fucking the Book of Mormon instead. Because I'd been hearing about Book of Mormon for years. I'm like, I'm going to go see it. I think I at least saw it with Josh Gad or something at least. But it was like...
with your friend Josh Gad.
My biggest regret. How did I not see my favorite play that became one of my favorite movies with my favorite actor that's ever lived, Al Pacino? I go, why didn't I fucking go... I can't believe it.
How far?
I think about it all the time, and I go, if I had a time machine, I could change one thing. I would have gone to see that.
Could you imagine the butterfly effect that would have on society? You seeing Glenn Ross?
I reckon I wouldn't have metamorphosized. I just would have been smiling a few more times in my life because I would have had a happier existence.
Do you think there should be a Broadway adaptation of the butterfly effect?
I think there should, and Ashton Kutcher should be in it, and so should Ethan Suplee and Amy Smart, and it should just be on stage. One of those things that never leave Broadway.
Yeah.
And those three are just trapped there doing that, and they don't get to do other stuff. It'd be awesome to see big, bulky Ethan Suplee doing the butterfly
like the
effect
new one,
now.
or do you?
Well, you know how he's
ripped.
not fat anymore.
Yeah,
he's ripped.
absolutely ripped.
Would love to see him do the butterfly effect again. Go back and play all his characters.
Well, maybe him and Ashton could switch. Maybe he could be the leading man. He's probably more of a leading man than Ashton these days. I don't think Ashton really acts anymore.
Well, of course.
He's kind of more of a tech guy.
I think so. What are you thinking about Jobs?
I'm thinking about Jobs. Yeah.
What's that movie called? Is it called Jobs or I Jobs?
He's
or something
in Jobs,
like that? Yeah.
and then the as I call it, the real one is the Fassbender, Danny Boyle.
Danny Boyle one.
Yeah, it's like the Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters when two things come out at the same time. Remember the animated series?
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. Did anyone ever come up to you in that video store and say, can you recommend me something because I like the favorites you had?
Yeah, heaps.
How does that feel?
A lot. Yeah, man, it was nice.
Is that when you were kind of like, okay, I
was like a little local character, mate.
Curator?
I was a local character.
Did you lean into it?
Well, I had no other choice. It was who I was. Like, I was a little local character.
What do you mean by local character?
Like, people knew who I was in the neighborhood
because of the video store.
Because of the video store. Because I was like in a real neighborhood place. Like, Annandale at that time was a neighborhood. It was like a little village.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I remember.
Did you have a uniform? Or was
I just wore my own clothes.
So did you lean into the characterness with
one
your
of
clothes
those local magazines like Ciao or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I was listed as one of the favorite local characters. The teenager.
Look, I knew it was esteemed
journalism,
but I didn't realize it was going that
it was
esteemed.
Like one of our local characters. Like there was some articles like
the kid who loves Martin Scorsese movies.
I can't remember who it was, but it was like a regular customer got interviewed in like Ciao magazine,
about
and they said
you.
they were. The question was like, who are some of your favorite locals? And he said, I don't know his name, but the teenage boy that works at the video store has excellent taste.
We used to be a real country. You know what I mean? The media landscape used to amount to something. Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah.
For some reason, you telling me that, I picture you in there as you are now.
I've never metamorphosed. I've been the same my entire life.
Yeah.
I've never transformed. I've been the exact same guy.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's the same as you.
It's awesome when people become my fan now and they go, I used to come to Mondo movies.
Wait, do they really?
Yeah.
So they've seen you grown up like Australia's.
There's some people where I've been their movie person since they were a child because I was the clerk at their video store.
And they've grown around you, but you stayed the same.
I've stayed the same. I filled that part in their life with only a 5-year gap, which was when I left the video store and then I started podcasting.
Went to a different video store.
That's the only time that I wasn't their movie person in their life.
I'd hate to know how low they got in that era without your constant. So what you provide is a service.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, maybe they followed my Twitter for a little bit, and that was how they learned
about
about movies.
Do you think we could? Is there? If we head down to the Leichhardt Library, can we find on the old issues? Do you think of Ciao to find this?
So funny. I mean, maybe not because they didn't know my name. They just said the young man, the young teenage man.
I picture you now, but just with a cap with a propeller on it.
The only difference was I didn't have a beard and I had no glasses. I was the exact same.
Yeah, no, you do contain multitudes. You and I are of this ilk of film fan who are very, very proud to call themselves a lover of film. People who actively watch new and old films all of the time. As we said, we bonded over our love of background.
The works of Lucas.
The works of the great maker himself, George Lucas. I'd really love to know what you think of, and I guess, it's been a term that's been thrown around a lot in the last 5 years, I think. I guess it's a stereotype that's been around forever, but the term itself has kind of really solidified itself recently, film bro. Like, what do you think of,
bro.
what do you think of that terminology? What do you think of, how does that make you feel? And do you think it's an unfair name for a certain type, or do you think, no, that's actually perfect?
It aptly describes a certain film lover. And I am very lucky in that my film bro era predates the internet film culture.
So what to you is film bro era?
For me, film bro era for me was when I was a teenager. And I think film bro, the way I see that term, and I think when it is aptly applied, it insinuates a certain, not just a snobbiness.
Like a
performativeness. And also I'm better than you, or I'm more cultured than you. But I think a lot of those film bros have a very small range of knowledge and a small range of directors or filmmakers
like
that they apply an auteur theory to,
Palma,
and they don't go
Scorsese.
past the gateway of film. And I think there's like those filmmakers, but especially like Tarantino, they can be a gateway to a world of film, but a lot of people don't walk through those gates. They just admire them. And I think Film Bros, it is that. And you see, and I think when I was growing up, you see who they are. When I was a young person, which was when I was entering film, but I was, in a way, because I was doing it on my own, and like I was doing it separate from a culture, but I would say it's my Film Bro phase, was teenage boy getting into your Tarantinos. Mm-hmm. And even though
they're gateways for a reason, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
They
but
are
then
gateways.
I think the next generation, and I saw it when I started going to film school, they go very clearly, it was Christopher Nolan was the next one. And then very clearly after that, it became Denis Villeneuve. Right after that, or around that time, the next two were Robert Eggers and Ari Aster. And I think that's still currently who they are, is those three.
Safdie's maybe...
Safdie's is the next one, I would say. Safdie's will be the next one, but I'd say there's a type of film, bro, where it's Eggers, Ari Aster, Villeneuve.
Yeah. As like their guys.
That's the ones you talk about. If you see any conversation about film on the internet, always in the replies, it'll be those three I mentioned. And then I'd say Safdie...
Who are all great filmmakers.
Of course.
Like,
you can't deny
it.
Yeah. But then I think they limit their scope. And I think there's something about that Film Bro, when it's aptly applied, it is people that have limited their scope but unaware that they have. And they think they've just found the good stuff, but they are unwilling to explore. And I think there's a lot of people that find those films but never go further to look back at the influences of those people, who they were. They never explore an international cinema, apart from the ones that get fed to them via a podcast.
They have no idea Denis Villeneuve made films in different languages.
They would never have heard of Insondies.
They would have heard of Insondies, of
They would never heard of Insondies or anything like that. And you go, that's an Oscar-nominated film. They don't go Insondies. They don't go past Prisoners or whatever, going back. And you go, are you serious?
Yeah, this guy has whole...
They just go to the mainstream stuff there. But they don't, and then they don't look further at the influences of those people. They don't go, whoa, Denis Villeneuve, where's he from? Or he's a French-Canadian filmmaker. What are the other stuff that I can see from that space? They don't look at that. And I think they get fed something, they take that as gospel, and they continue to spread that gospel without going further. And I think that's what it applies.
Do you think it's because they're scared of being like, well, the moment I step out of this comfort zone, I will no longer be the, quote, expert. And I don't want to be in a world where I'm not an expert, where I can...
And I think that's a part of that where it's like there is a fear to be challenged. And I think if you can break that down... Like there's a comfortableness.
They're like, I'm comfortable here. I don't want to go outside of a mainstream 4K box set. I don't want to go to like an Arrow, or I don't want to go to like a Vinegar Syndrome. I need my... Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think there's a fear to be challenged and a fear of discovery.
Yeah.
And I think if you can break that, the earlier you can break that you unlock a world of, the divine inspiration of discovering film and art, to be untethered to expectations, to finding stuff, and then you can go on your own journey. I think for me, it was like I was very lucky that my first teacher in film were Margaret and David. And then I was lucky enough at the right time to find other teachers. Some literal, some literal in like the teachers that I went to film school with, who were able to like introduce me to a different world of film. But then also having access to this amazing video store library, then access to a film school library, then finding, critics and writers from around the world that could introduce me to a broader world, and then finding specific niches to go into. I was very, very fortunate that was the way that I could do it. It's maybe harder for some kids now to do it, but the Film Bro thing, I think, is very apt and real.
Do you think places like what you were just discussing, I'm thinking more like the video store, an environment like that, do you think the fact that these don't exist anymore has really limited the discovery aspect, despite the fact that now we live in a world where, we're promised there's so much information, everything's at our fingertips. Do you actually think losing those physical spaces has limited discovery, because it's so much easier to just stick to the main...
Because I think there's like there's a curation involved in that.
The surprise.
There's also like, there's a considered curation in a video store that you can try to replicate in an online space, but it's difficult, not always the way. It's something that's easily done in a film festival as well, where there's like this considered curation that can help someone's discovery, and I think it's harder to do in these online spaces.
Algorithmic led,
and that's not curation. No. Algorithm is not curation, and I think that's been my key. As when I think of myself as a film critic, I actually think of myself as a curator first, which is I go out there, I'm exploring, and then I can bring back my discoveries that I think can inspire people.
Like Indiana Jones.
I like to think of myself as the Indiana Jones of film criticism.
Fandom is obviously something that I think is deeply tied to this film bro, and also you and I, it all comes back to, I'm finding today is coming back to a lot of yours and my relationship, and you did say at the very beginning, you kind of sensed in me immediately, like two dogs sniffing each other's asses, that we are fans, but you wouldn't necessarily call us members of the fandom.
Yes, no, never.
And we have seen, I guess I really pinpoint maybe the Harry Potter films, the ongoing Star Wars movies that will never end, which is something that happens now. It's particularly the Marvel films.
Yes.
And it's really normalized fandom, which used to be kind of this like convention-led basement dwelling thing. And there's something really interesting about the kind of rise of fandom and how vocal fandoms are, but also how their taste is just like what you said before, like so limited to these safe spaces. But the good thing about that is that all these people post online. Yeah. And you and I, over the last few years, have had this like text thread that we could almost publish as a book, like as a dissertation actually, on like the problem with fandom. Yeah. But I wanted to talk to you and talk about finally our love of certain cultures and subsections of the internet, in particular a subreddit that's called r/fancasting.
Oh, yes. I think our great discoveries have been these strange subreddits that are specific. r/fancasting is my favorite one that we send each other back and forth, where it is basically armchair. It's like armchair director, armchair casting director. The fantasy football of oh my gosh, the fantasy football of casting director, and it's basically online internet nerds.
It's the guys we were discussing before, the guys who have not stepped outside of a certain perimeter of media,
and it would be something like it's the my fan cast for The Godfather was made in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, it would have Michael Douglas.
Yeah, it would be like Michael Douglas as Vito Corleone, Channing Tatum as Sonny, Tyler Kitsch as Michael. It would be like that. The one you just showed me right now is my fan cast for if Cars was live action gender swap, and they say Anya Taylor-Joy as Lightning McQueen. So it's like crazy stuff like that.
I pulled some of our classics because you and I, for chunks at a time, will just communicate strictly via these links. One of my favorite brands of these are the alternate, what you just said, the casting, and they pick the director and the era. So this one is the Spider-Man trilogy, the Raimi one, if it was directed by Chris Columbus, known for the first two Harry Potter films, Home Alone, Uncle Buck.
Yeah, Goonies. He's Goonies.
Wrote Goonies, I think.
He wrote Goonies.
Richard Donner made
Richard
Goonies.
Donner directed it.
But we have Elijah Wood as Peter Parker.
It's also so funny because 2002 to 2007... Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that the exact same time when that came out?
But it's just, what if Christopher Columbus wasn't doing Harry Potter?
What if he was doing these, and who would be?
Well, he would have Hayden Christensen as Harry Osborn. Wow. We'd have Natalie. So this guy, and the best thing about this is you learn after 2 or 3 suggestions that the people making these castings have seen 5 films.
They've seen 5 movies.
This person has cast Natalie Portman as Mary Jane.
The best
and
one
Hayden
I always
Christensen.
see on these things is like they always do Batman, and almost always it's 2 guys from TV shows. The guy from Supernatural.
There's Brendan Scanlon. I've saved these. They're always the same guys.
And the other one is the guy from the Mike Flanagan shows.
Yeah, right.
And they always go, those are the 2 guys.
It's insane. It's so funny.
Why who started this? And then why do you all jump on that it should be the guy from Supernatural or the guy from the Mike Flanagan shows?
But these are people, but they're not speaking from a place of like, oh, I'm trying to make this like group of strangers laugh. Like their literacy, their media literacy is literally CW.
That's why I also think like around this same time, like we've just passed it, but there was a point in time where people were like, Pedro Pascal is in every movie. And I go, yeah, because you see 6 movies a year.
Yeah, he would
and
be.
one of them's Star Wars and one of them's fucking Marvel.
And the other one's
and then
Last
the
of
only
Us.
TV show you're watching is The Last of Us. And maybe you'll see Eddington as your one art house release of the year. And then you go, well, of course he's in everything.
Yeah.
It's the only shit that you see existing. You know, go one step further. Go chuck in a freaking, Vietnamese film into your diet or something.
There's no Pedro Pascal
and just like
there.
Pedro Pascal is oversaturated. Go, no, man.
Yeah, if
you
you
just
watch
don't
6
see
movies,
any movies.
absolutely. I just found one of my favorites is the Gilligan's Island remake.
Amazing.
Do you mind reading this one
Tom
out?
Holland as Gilligan. And they also I would say, they do a great job curating the images to find the right ones to fit.
Because he's looking very Gilligan-y here.
he's looking
Like if you
very
put
Gilligan-y.
a fisherman's hat on his head, he would not
He's
look
wearing
out
a
of
lovely
place.
little orange sweater.
Yeah.
Rob Riggle as the skipper.
How's Rob looking in that? Very captain-like?
Very captain-like. Bryan Cranston as the millionaire in a very low-res image.
Oh, that's the other thing. They only watch television as well.
Yeah,
Like Prestige.
Melissa McCarthy as his wife. Madeline Petch as the movie star. Ryan Gosling as a professor. Imagine
Gosling would do
seeing-
television.
He'd do a television show as the 5th build person. Rachel Ziegler as Mary Ann. God, they're so good.
It's so good. And another thing that we love is just finding subreddits of fandoms that probably shouldn't be around.
Stagnated film franchises.
Which ones are there? There's the Indiana Jones,
The Indiana Jones,
Ghostbusters.
the Indiana Jones was a beautiful one to be already on the ground floor of when the new Indiana Jones
when
movie
Dial of
was
Destiny
coming
came
out.
You could actually see.
Oh my God.
grown
Every day
men-
there was like a 6 post going, so I've just seen the movie.
And it was like, guys, going to see the movie, how do I look? And it was photos they've made their wives take of them wearing a brown leather jacket and a fedora.
My favorite post in that subreddit that I send you often, I just send you this post, is the image is a man with it's a man who's wearing the hat on his hand. So he's taking a photo with the new fedora on his hand, like not even holding up his hands inside the hat, but
Like fisting a hat.
He's fisting the hat, and it's you can't see his face. It's just of his hand with the hat on it, and he's yet to punch in the top of the hat, so it's still a big dome on top. And the thing just says, "Thank wife,
Thank wife.
thank wife." Because it's his Christmas present for his wife. But those are the good ones. Pirates of the Caribbean
Pirates
one.
is one. I've saved one from Pirates that I just wanted to share to remind you of. It's just simply a picture of Hector Barbosa, the character played
by
Jeffrey
Rush.
Rush. It just says, "What's your opinion on Hector Barbosa?"
How many upvotes? How many comments?
773 upvotes,
Oh my
258 comments. It's just, it's so good.
They're so amazing to find these stagnated franchises that they still have like a weird fan base that exists around them online.
This one's fantastic. The MCU is obviously doing a lot of the hard work here. One I love here is I went through this morning and just saved all of our ones. It is the picture's not loading, but it's Jerry Lewis and Charles Brosnan as 1950s Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh my God. It's also so funny because Jerry Lewis, not known as he's known as a physical comedian.
He's not the merc with the mouth.
Hello, ladies. Oh. It's like
the day the merc cried. His Holocaust comedy.
Oh God, that's so good.
Yeah, and another, I guess this also leans to another sect of fandom that you and I have come across lately and have much enjoyment in sharing, and also just like never punching down. Like we're just kind of marvel at these people, and I guess pun intended with that word.
Yeah,
but it's these.
But we're spectators. There's
these guys now that
we're not interventionalists. We just observe.
We just watch. Yeah, we are much like your grandfather, anthropologically studying these fandoms. But there's this new ilk of guys that will just recite lines there's the Han Solo guy.
Oh, I love this man.
You've discovered recently and have been sharing. Oh my God,
because we have a group chat called Death Sticks and Chill, which is me, you, and beloved breakfast radio host on Triple J, Luca Muller, just sending each other Star Wars stuff that arrives in our algorithm. But there's this guy that I'm obsessed with, who I send it every time to almost no participation from you and Luca,
but
barely a react on it.
But what's amazing is this has no likes. Like it hasn't blown up yet.
No.
Like he's still underground.
He's getting below 10 comments or likes on these things. But it's a man who does...
He's probably like 30s, 40s?
Yeah, 30s, 40s. But he does incredible one-man, no cutting. There's no cutting. It's just one man straight, just not down the barrel. The camera's to the side.
Yeah.
He's just doing one man scenes of Star Wars. And he does incredible vocal impersonations of them. The only editing is I read his comments to discover how he did this, because a C-3PO voice he does.
It sounds like
it was incredible, and I was like, there has to be some editing,
some modulation on the voice.
So the modulation that he does only is he puts 2 audio tracks for when he does C-3PO and makes it less than half a second difference or whatever. So it sounds like the C-3PO, like the 2 voices coming out. So it's like it's got the 2 things. Just like his
the
own
two-tone
voice,
almost,
the
played on
two-tone.
top. Yeah.
So it's just like one and then less than half a second afterwards. So it just sounds a bit echoey, and that's how he does the C-3PO voice. Otherwise, I think there's no modulation.
But what he would do, he would be like, "Hey, princess, what are you doing?" And then he would just be,
and then he would transform and just go, "Oh yes,"
and he'd be like, "They walk down hallway."
Yeah.
he would say actions, won't he?
Sometimes I think it's mainly just the voice.
It's amazing, but
and it's like, hey, listen, I know about you and Luke, but when we land, I won't stand in the way. I'll let you. She's like, he's my brother, and like the way he does, I go, he's incredible.
It's like self-taping for an audition that he'll never get the part of,
and he's just playing, because it's already been cast and the movies have been made for 50 years old. But it's just like, he is an incredible talent.
Yeah, there's another guy that I love that's of the same DNA that I sent to you, and it is a young man, a young Southeast Asian man who, he just, I guess if he were to use your Bowerbird terminology earlier, it's for Spider-Man.
He's only collected Spider-Man, and he just keeps doing Tom Holland impressions.
Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, and he'll be like, Andrew Garfield's smile, and it's just him smiling with the certain way that I guess Andrew Garfield.
He's pretty good at it. He knows how to do it. But then you're also going, well, you don't look like any of these men, so it's hard for me to know exactly. But I can tell to the trained eye now. I know what he's doing.
What do you think of this? Do you think this fandom's only going to get worse before it gets better, or do you kind of love that it's out here? Do you think this is what people were doing before they?
I wonder, because I can only look at it as an observer. I'll never participate in this stuff.
No, we have too much self-awareness.
Yeah,
but I also don't feel
these one examples that we're saying I think are beautiful.
I think it's kind of like
I can't wait to see what he does
when
with
it's
Grogu.
an art. When it's like, I imagine Mickey Rooney playing Grogu 1960s fan casting or something. It feels like outsider art. You know what I mean? But it's like outsider film criticism. It's really interesting. You're a very prolific Letterboxd reviewer. Do you remember your first review?
No, because I was doing, for the year before I got Letterboxd, I would type up and put an image up on my Twitter of every single film I watched. And then a year into that, I got Letterboxd, and then I went back and I put every single one of those in to the date that I posted on Twitter.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It is Fassbinder, Love Without Demands.
What do you mean?
I went back and found your earliest review.
My earliest review?
Yeah,
really?
This morning.
What is it?
19th of September 2015. We're looking at, almost 11 years out.
Yeah,
the film is Fassbinder, Love Without Demands.
That was at, that was
a documentary, I believe.
A documentary about Rainer Fassbinder, the filmmaker from Germany. And that was a documentary about him that I saw at the Sydney Underground Film Festival.
And you wrote an interesting psychological profile of a great auteur.
Yeah.
And I like to think that, isn't that great? That's not a cringe entry. I went back to be like, I wonder if there's something like, a Tom Holland smile compilation tape. But no, I thought that was very nice to see.
I think I must have just discovered it then, and that might have been the first one that I put in, and then I went back and did them all to the date of the Twitter. That I did for 2015. That's awesome.
Yeah, there was. I think there was like a lump there, but that was the earliest one.
Yeah.
You are known for getting into rabbit holes. That's another thing that we bonded over. Obviously, you did with your early podcast, Finding Drago. It is now also, I guess, led to, obviously a show you did last year, Refuse Classification, which for those who, I guess, don't have that Australian context, what is that show about? What was that show about?
Refuse Classification was a live documentary comedy theatre piece, so a lot of hybrids.
Yeah, a lot of hyphens in that, isn't there?
A lot of hyphens about Margaret Pomeranz and David Stratton, the Australian film critics who were the hosts of the movie show and then At the Movies, about a 2003 incident surrounding the film Ken Park by Larry Clark. and that film being refused classification in Australia, effectively banning it from being screened and seen in this country.
Is it still refused?
I believe so, but nobody really gives a shit anymore, so you can buy it on Amazon and stuff like that. We even said that as a joke in the show.
Did you have an affiliate link? Did you make money out of that?
No,
bit?
I wish, but we did have it up on screen, the live Amazon page. Around that film being refused classification, effectively banned in this country, and Margaret Pomeranz's championing of the film, and believing it should be seen by teenagers.
This is a very controversial film. Obviously, the opening scene is somebody, spoiler alert, blowing their head off with a gun, right? I remember watching it on a DVD as that screening was happening. Like, it was doing the rounds at the video store I was working at, and it was like, here's that banned film.
Yeah. And so that was a 2003 incident, and it wasn't unable to be released in Australia, unable to play film festivals in Australia
and
as
she
well.
played it at like Balmain Town Hall, wasn't it?
She did an illegal screening at the Balmain Town Hall, and that's where our show leads up to, is to that illegal screening. And then the show at that point
So it's like a fictionalized, conversations between Margaret and David?
There's no fictionalized, anything that a character says that it's a real person is actual something that they said in an interview, in some kind of recorded transcript. So there's no invented dialogue for any characters that are real people. But the way that I wrote the show would be how I would write. It's how I would have written the archive documentary about it, using archival footage.
Yeah.
But we wrote it.
Right.
Then we wrote it as well in the style of, because Zach, my co-conspirator on it, Zach Ruane from Auntie Donna, he brought that sensibility to it. So we wrote it, one, how I would have written an archive documentary.
Yeah.
Two, how he would write a Auntie Donna style sketch show, and it was those two sensibilities combining together to create one holistic piece. So it was verbatim theater. So anything that a real person said was verbatim. So it begun with an episode, and this is how it started. Was I had just rewatched an episode of the movie show because it was on TV. They'd been replaying them on SBS Viceland. There was one day I was homesick, 3 or 4 years ago now. I turned on the TV and an episode of the movie show was on. And I was like, I'd love to watch this. It's a 2003 episode. Very quickly, I remembered what the episode was because it was my favorite episode. Started recognizing the reviews because they were talking about the 25th Hour, the Spike Lee film. And then they started talking about the White Oleander. And then I was like, oh, I remember this. The next film they reviewed was The Core. And it was a classic review to me because I remembered Margaret and David. It was one of those ones, like a bad disaster movie.
Yeah.
And
I can see the poster now.
They were very funny talking about it. I remember this episode because I knew what was coming up, which was Margaret Pomeranz's infamous 4.5-star review of the Too Fast, Too Furious.
Too Fast.
Too Fast, Too Furious. And I always remember that review because it was the moment that Margaret Pomeranz started existing in my head as a hero, because I always loved Margaret and David and I idolized them, but that was a moment where going, wow, there's something interesting about this person revealing their taste to be action cinema, and I found that really interesting. And then
she was ahead of the curve in a way, because a lot of critics got behind the Fast movies 4 films later.
4 films later, and she's on there from the second
I think
entry.
that's very
and especially a film that was quite maligned. She was willing to go to bat for it.
Yeah, which has now been reappraised as one of the better ones. And I
remember watching that episode and going like, oh wow, I remember all of this.
Yeah.
Then the next thing she says, now to something more serious. The issue of the film Ken Park continues to dog the Sydney Film Festival, and there's possible implications of the Melbourne Film Festival as well. Seeing that on TV on a repeat 2 decades later, I was just floored to go like, how can all these things be happening at the same time, where she's talking about Too Fast, Too Furious, and then she starts talking about Ken Park, which is something as a film person in Australia,
seen it at that point?
I'd never seen Ken Park, but I knew that saga very well because it was on TV at that time, so I knew about it.
It was like front page of the news the next day.
I was only 11 or 12 years old.
You weren't yet a Ciao Bella personality.
Not at all yet. But I knew about, and then seeing that refreshed it, and then Zach and I started talking about it, and we go, maybe Zach said to me, has anyone made a documentary about that? I didn't think so. So we started talking about it. I said, why don't we do it as a live show?
So that was your suggestion.
It was us talking together. And then it quickly developed from there because Zach was I've always been interested in verbatim theater. So it's one of the elements of directing that I studied at film school.
What's
was verbatim theater, which is theater created from verbatim transcripts.
Right.
And
so a movie
an example
that came out recently was like Reality.
Yeah, Reality would be an example
which
of
is
it.
just a screenplay which is taken from an interrogation.
Yeah,
I believe.
I think it was the actual body
interview.
recording, the actual body recordings of that.
Yeah.
But then for me, it was we had an actor come into film school who did a verbatim piece of, I believe, a police recording of a man talking about the death of his daughter or something like that. And it was a theater piece, but it was a monologue taken from a transcript.
Right.
And I remember being so, like, it was a vivid moment of my learning experience that has stuck with me forever. And if you look at anything that I've ever made, Finding Drago is verbatim theater. Like that, everything that we've got all these voiceovers, and they're all just from either stuff we found online, reviews that we found, anything like that. Any piece of online material, we treated that as verbatim, and we got voice actors to come do that. Anytime
in fact,
we had
the second season, you have Ella Brandy herself.
Yes,
Pia Miranda lends her voice to a character.
From that, and then there'll be some where we talking to people online, and we get voice actors to come read their responses and stuff. So that was all verbatim, and then
so this was an extension of that essentially,
yes,
except just like visualizing it.
Exactly, and that was my study, and then doing that myself in this, we're just like, it needs to be verbatim. Like, we need to try and. There was some editing in taking lines out, but never changing lines.
Yeah.
Only taking stuff out to make it more streamlined for an audience, but the verbatim was essential to that.
And it was still serving the purpose of what I imagine a documentary would have done. You know what I mean?
So it was a documentary, but it was funny because we wrote sketches into it, but it was all leading to that story. When I say sketches, it wasn't like, now imagine this. No, it was like,
David, did you order this pizza?
Nothing like that. It was all just to bring the story to life, but it was done humorously because it was written by two comedy writers and comedy performers. But the goal was to take the story seriously, to find out the relevance of why it still matters today, and then also to take this story seriously and to take the documentary element seriously, but to communicate it comedically without ever making fun of the subjects or light of the subjects of the subjects.
I mean, one of the subjects famously came
exactly. David came to the final encore show in Sydney.
Which is one of the last public appearances
his last public appearance,
yeah. How did that feel?
True honor. And also, because I'd known David a little bit, he's always been very generous.
You've got
a
book of mine by David.
I do.
Yeah. You can keep it.
Oh, thank you.
It's a gift.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great, I'll keep it.
I just gave it to you.
Yeah, well, I was never going to return it, so yeah. But he'd always been very generous with me, and I remember the very first time I met both he and Margaret I describe it as the best week of my life.
Go on.
Because it was when I was reviewing film for the ABC TV arts program, The Mix. It was me, Kate Jinks, and Jason DeRosso.
Kate Jinks, friend of the show,
and I would say also
friend of life.
One of my dearest friends, but also someone who I'd consider a mentor to myself.
Likewise, I shared a desk with her at where I work currently, and she even gave me so many opportunities just by sharing a desk with her. From like speaking at the MCA for an hour about Nicolas Cage to hosting her movie show on our local community radio station while she was away. Like, really encouraged me. I pinpoint her as the person who got me kind of back into loving film the same way again after a few years away from.
She is, I think, the greatest film curator in Australia currently working,
and that's a scoop. You can print that. Yeah, I agree. She currently, for those who don't know, she runs a MIF at the moment. She's the head programmer, I believe.
Senior programmer. I think we'll get in trouble if you say she's the head programmer.
We'll say senior.
But I remember there was a week that we were reviewing films, and it was 2019, which to my mind, especially when you consider this week, was the true great year of film in our lifetime. Because there was this one week, I kicked off the Monday going to see The Irishman, and David was there, and it was the first time I ever talked to him, and we had a long conversation.
Pre or post film?
Post film.
Yeah. I think that's for the best.
The Irishman and Scorsese. And then the other films that I remember reviewing that week were Pain and Glory, the Pedro Almodovar film, another one of my favorite filmmakers and heroes. The Greta Gerwig version of Little Women.
Great movie.
Marriage Story by Noah Baumbach.
Another great movie.
And Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
They're all great movies.
And then one of those other screens, I believe it was Marriage Story or Pain and Glory. One of the only other people in the cinema was Margaret Pomeranz. It was the first time I ever talked to her as well.
Oh, big year for Netflix, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They had a good year.
And I had a long conversation with her about, maybe it was Marriage Story.
Yeah.
We had like a long conversation because we're the only people that stayed during the credits. And
real ones.
And that was like the best week of my life because it was the week that I met my two heroes.
Separately as well.
But also doing what I was already doing, which was reviewing films on television.
Because of them, essentially. Not because of them, but because
it would have been, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I once peed next to David after watching Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. It's early screening for that, which I wasn't a film critic. Someone just invited me.
You just invited as a young man.
And yeah, I think I made a joke about the pee being 3.5 stars, and he gave me a very polite laugh.
You could have peed on him the way that he peed on
Fellini.
Yes.
I know, yeah. No, it was very formative for me, and even I value that moment. I dare say,
I would say on that's an instance of verbatim. Was in the show. We interviewed David, and whenever he had dialogue, which was. Because David was also a huge proponent of anti-censorship in Australia, and he was the person that instigated a loophole for film festivals that could screen material that had yet to be classified. So that could mean that films could screen at film festivals uncut and uncensored, because they had yet to be classified, so they could screen
the board
anything.
In Australia haven't reviewed it, but therefore a festival could screen it.
And that is what the loophole that closed around Ken Park was, that someone had submitted to be classified before it played at any film festivals. It got refused classification, so it could not screen. And that's what we talk about in the show. But we also talk through David's history of him being the director of the film festival, instigating that. And then a couple of years later, him being the driving force and instigator of the R18 plus classification entering Australia to allow films like Clockwork Orange and stuff. Salo never was illegal until the 90s when it could be screened with contextual materials.
That's right.
So it could be screened basically with bonus features. It had to screen with like a documentary about it.
That's so funny.
And same with anytime Salo is released on home video, it has to have bonus features
just
that
in Australia.
Contextualize it. Yeah, in Australia.
How bizarre.
But David was the one that instigated the R18 plus rating. So we do a segment in that show where we walk through the history of it, where I'm saying it as myself, where I'm talking about these are the things that David did, and then Zach in character as David Stratton says real life things that are either one from an interview that we did with David, where it's a verbatim quote from that interview, two from his memoir I Peed on Fellini, where he would say stuff that he wrote in that memoir. And same thing with Margaret, they'd either be from interviews that we found, transcripts we found of sessions she moderated at that time at Sydney Film Festival, two for when we recreate the night of the screening, which is what the show builds up to, which is an in-theater experience of that screening where we leave the stage and go out in the crowd, and everything that unfolds in that is not quite real time, but an encapsulation of a real-time experience of that screening as it happened on the night. Everything that she says in that segment is from multiple news reports, video and written, of her actual quotes, and quotes of anyone that speaks is from that, unless there's a joke one that we put in as well. But like all those are just things that people actually said on the night as they said it. So it's like all that verbatim recreation.
How important do you think, I guess, voices like yourselves, Margaret, David's, and film criticism in general, how important do you think it is right now and critical, actually, funnily enough, to use a word about film critics in 2026?
It's hard to say because I think there is value to it, but I think that it's different to when I was growing up. I don't know, because I think that people can go out there and discover stuff on their own, and they can engage in conversation not led by criticism as well now. But I think that to find a deeper meaning in the films, those conversations led by critics can be essential. And I think it can be also in the taste of the culture currently for those conversations to be led by critics. But it's also like, you don't need critics to establish the new canon. You don't need critics to establish that.
Because famously, many canonical critics didn't like the new canon at the time.
Yeah.
Like some people thumbed down 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know what I mean? And it is kind of interesting to see this traditional method and Yeah, I wonder. Like, I still value film criticism in a massive way, but obviously it is so quiet now compared to where it is, and you really have to have a look. And
it's tough because you also see people like demolishing the career of a critic, where it's like the critics don't know anything. They hate movies and stuff like
because
that.
They didn't like the new Captain America or something.
Like something like some mainstream superhero movie.
Yeah.
And you see those people like this
is that fandom thing where we've seen fandom that used to be this
They
quiet,
see critics as an opposing force.
It's like, no, these are people that actually have, knowledge of decades of movies and context and subtext and relationships between political views, everything, and the history of film, where you kind of have the Infinity box set, and that's your like
exactly. And I think there's a different thing now where when you had these landmark critics like in Australia, your Margaret and David, or in America, your Ebert and Siskel. Or in UK, I guess like someone like a Mark Kermode, or Bradshaw, people like that, where people could engage with them, but they also knew what their taste was. I think I'm in a fortunate position where a lot of people understand what my taste is, and I can have quite eclectic taste. So a lot of the time, I don't get too much negative pushback if I disagree with the flow or whatever, because I think that people that engage with my work engage with it on a fairly deep level where they have to seek me out rather than like I just pop up because I'm not like reviewing for like a big thing. It's the people that want my opinion and seek it out.
They need to follow you. They need to opt into your voice.
Yeah.
And with that, they kind of already can probably go in having a fair guess of what your response will be.
Exactly.
Based on
and it's the same way that I would have had the relationship with Margaret and David, where I go, if I disagree with them, it's okay. I don't go, you're a fucking idiot because you don't agree with me.
I'm not going to dox you. I'm not going to dox Margaret. I'm going to be like, oh.
You know what their taste is, and you know when you're going to agree with them or you don't disagree, or when you do agree with them or whatever, you know it. And it's like, that's okay. So I think there's a weird thing now where there's audiences that just seek their own validation by a critic agreeing with them rather than being able to go, well, I like this, they didn't. That's okay.
It comes back to that bubble.
It's really bizarre.
It just comes back to that algorithmic bubble where people are kind of very comfortable with just hearing what they think or seeing the same values, and that lack of being challenged.
It's just self-validation. You go, why would you want that? But
it's a real bummer. It doesn't like propel cool things.
All.
You know what I mean? It really, really limits it. On criticism, I would love to know, you are currently touring a new show.
Yep.
It is about your love of cinema.
Yes.
But before we talk about VHS, which is, I believe, just finished its Adelaide run.
Yeah, it just finished its Adelaide run, about to kick off Melbourne Comedy Festival run.
You were in this very unique position where you are a lover of film, which I know it. I have a feeling that's what this show was about.
Yeah.
And also it's what your last show was about.
Yeah.
You're also a critic. Like, you are somebody who's asked to review things. You are somebody who's asked to engage with film and speak about it for a mass audience. Do you ever find, like, what is that tension like between being a lover and also somebody who is critiquing it? Is it difficult, or does it just happen naturally for you?
It happens naturally because I think, like, also currently I don't have an outlet. Like, I don't review contemporary film.
Yeah.
The only place I review it, quote unquote, would be like my Letterboxd, or if I discuss it on my podcast, or another podcast or whatever. I don't write reviews except like Letterboxd, but I don't think of that as reviewing. I think of that more
like logging, diarizing.
I think of that as my diary, my film diary. So it's a public film diary where I can access my own thoughts, but also other people can access them too.
Yeah.
I don't have a formal review. I haven't formally reviewed since The Mix, which ended in 2022, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2020. Yeah, I think 2022 or 2021. So I've not really... Currently, I've not pursued being a contemporary film reviewer. I think criticism exists for me as a curation and a celebrator of cinema.
Okay.
Which is helping people discover the films that I think they're going to love.
So truly that curator land.
Yeah, I think that's where
taste making.
I think that's where I land more these days. But also, it's a thing where it's an amorphous shape where, you know, if a great opportunity came to me where I could review contemporary cinema, in a way like a Margaret or David, that would be something I would love to pursue. But I find more joy in celebrating the things I love and being able to get those on the radars of other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's been what I've really strove to do with my podcast, The Last Video Store, which is conversations with people about the films I love, and then extending upon that, me using my knowledge of seeing, thousands and thousands of movies to find something a level deeper than they're currently at, to give them a very specific recommendation based on their taste.
It comes back to Mondo Video.
Comes back all the way back to that, which is like, that was my training ground. And when Cam and I had stopped doing like a total reboot, that was me going, well, what can I do next? And how do I love talking about film? Because I remember
you telling me we were driving to see Dream Scenario.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm thinking of doing this podcast that takes my curational aspect. And you basically, for the whole ride, told me about it. And I was like, that's such a... First of all, how has no one done this before? Second of all, that's so obvious. And
it was me just really going like, well, how do I love talking about film? And I go, well, how did I first love it? Working in a video store, giving recommendations to people, talking to people about them. And that, to speak of another early film mentor, when I worked in the video store, regular customer was Jamie Leonardo, aka J Katz, who was the host of the movie show after Margaret and David left.
The Fennell years, J Katz.
And Jamie Leonardo I loved the way that he engaged with film. I love the way he talked about it. I love the tangents he would go on. I love the kind of deep cuts and strange things that he'd go down the rabbit holes. So he was very, very key to me.
Very formative.
And he was, probably the next teacher I had after Margaret and David. And it was because, yes, seeing him on TV, but more so him coming and talking to me, and he'd come in at 9:30, the shop closed at 10, he'd leave at 10:30 because we'd just be there talking and stuff like that as we packed down. And, for him, I think I don't think he ever remembered me until I'd done enough little gigs with him at like film festivals, and then just be like, hey, I just want to say I used to work at the video store you came to, and we'd talk about film heap, and he goes, oh, that was you. And remember, very, very sweet and kind and generous person, J Katz, Jamie Leonardo. Those are his two personalities. One a stage performer, one the real guy, and they're almost exactly the same as each other.
Sometimes you got to delineate though. Sometimes you got to say, look, this is where I end and he begins. Yeah.
So that was like a thing of going like, well, how do I identify that and how can I do that? So I think it was like, our duty as a critic changed of being... because I don't write very much about film.
You're more of a herald.
More of a talker.
You're more of a, this is what, here's the news I want to share.
Exactly. I found my form with talking to people in a very direct conversational way. But it's also I think I wear that forever. There was a time where I thought, is there a fork in the road where I must pursue the creative career or the commentary career or the critique career?
Because the career of many aspiring filmmaker is, it's such a difficult industry to get into. And so a lot of that is, the fork in the road, I might just continue this passion, but talk about it.
Exactly. I mean, you look at
unless you're Paul Schrader, in which it works in reverse.
Yeah, exactly. Or you look at another hero of mine, Lee Winnell, film critic on Recovery, and I believe maybe Empire magazine.
I think Empire,
But he was a critic and a writer and an interviewer and stuff.
Gave us the Saw films.
Then he moved on to a writer actor, and then he's moved on to be a very, very, very fine director as well.
Invisible Woman.
The Invisible Man being it stars a woman, but it's actually called Invisible Man.
So I was thinking of Peggy from Mad Men as I said it.
Yeah, and he that's an incredibly made horror film.
Last film I saw before everything locked down.
Yeah, I believe we saw it together. I went twice to the premiere screenings. And that's a career path. And I thought for a time there would be a way where I have to split off.
Yeah.
But I think now though,
you don't have to, do you?
For me now, I've realized because I'm the only one doing what I'm doing, it's not two forks in the road. There were parallel roads for a while, but now I think it's one path.
Yeah.
Because of the way they've been able to forge them together through podcasting, which has always been comedy and criticism. Or comedy and documentary. Or
comedy and manosphere.
Yeah, that was my other path. And then it was also, then with Refused Classification, it was live comedy, documentary and film criticism coming together. And then this show is different where it's stand-up comedy, VHS is stand-up comedy and memoir comedy mixed with genre studies.
So that's what I want to talk about. Tell me about VHS. Because you, again, much like the last video store, you and I had lunch about 6 months ago, and you're like, I've got this idea for a show, and you just told me about how it came together. And the way you told me then, and I'm not sure if this is true anymore, is you were talking about 4 or 5 titles which meant a lot to you, were formative to you in shaping who you are. Tell me about the show, because that's kind of all I know.
It's evolved a little bit since then, but essentially it really is memoir stories of my life, and each one taking the form of a genre. So, for instance, my earliest memory was going into a video store and discovering the film E.T.
Hey, your earliest memory?
That's the earliest thing I can remember.
Just to do with film, but
the earliest
in general.
memory. That's the earliest thing I can remember was being a toddler. My mum taking me to the video store, me walking around and seeing the cover for E.T.
with the 2 fingers.
Those 2 fingers. And going like, what is this? Turning it around and seeing E.T. for the first time.
How did that make you feel? I won't
say more because that will be the joke in the show.
Okay, buy tickets, don't listen.
But seeing that and it feeling like, opening a portal to another world.
Yeah, sure.
And then, so the way that story I tell is in the style of a Spielberg adventure story.
An 80s.
And to like capture that feeling, that's a very short story. Then there's like a horror story which I've written. It's a horror story about, me truly believing that I had a interaction with a spectral visitor, a ghost, if you will, of some descript, and writing that inspired by The Exorcist and my love of The Exorcist, and centering that around The Exorcist and using it as a launch point to tell a story that I've written in the style of a genre and performing them in the style of genre, a crime story that is a true thing a crime that I committed in real life.
In fact, I believe you've spoken about it on my other podcast.
I believe I would have,
because you needed an outlet.
Me and Henry Stone needed an outlet for what we were going through at that time.
Your conscience was weighing.
It was weighing heavily on me, but then writing that in the style of a gangster film like Goodfellas.
Yeah,
and so it's like these stories that I've written from my real life, but doing it precisely in what I've cared about, which is communicating to audiences through genre, and using that as like the tropes and style and spines of like these stories, how to present them to an audience.
Where did the idea come from?
I think it's always been in my head of like, I've always thought of genre and genre cinema as being a language that audiences are completely fluent in, whether they're conscious of that or not.
It's like a universal language.
People know genre and they have expectations that can either be confirmed or upended because of it, and true skillful filmmakers understand that. And that
like Jordan Peele is someone who took took tropes and genre and then made a actual genre film out of those tropes.
And use it to communicate to an audience a social commentary, a message of social commentary,
and
an expression of self through genre. And I go, that is a perfect example of it, is Jordan Peele. And
maybe the best at it at the moment.
It's a cleanest example as well. And so that was always something that's been in my mind. And so doing the show with Zach, it made me fall in love with live performance again, live comedy performance. And I thought it would be a shame to, waste the momentum I built from going back and discovering my live audience again and speaking to people very directly. I just loved it all over again. It'd be a shame not to do that. And then kind of going, well, I should do a solo show. What do I know? I only know one thing, which is movies. I had other ideas for solo shows, but this was like the most obvious one, and the one where I'd already written enough things, because I had already written a horror story as stand-up or live performance based on this experience I had. And then I'd also already written a version of my crime story in the style of Goodfellas to a degree. So then it was like finding those things and then going, okay, what are the other two? One was a romance story about my first breakup and connecting that to a film experience that I had. And then the other one was the E.T. And because I think I'd said it on a podcast, but to then consciously go, well, discovering E.T. is really funny and it's like my earliest memory, but also I think I can write it to feel like a Spielberg sense of wonder. And then, there's stories in there about other stories, like just even little jokes talking about my love of Midnight Cowboy being my favorite movie when I was 15 and my mum showing me that film. So it's like those experiences of discovering film through VHS and then also actually having the VHS copies that I grew up with of those movies, rediscovering them. There was one that I lost that I had to buy again. Oh, and the best one was like I was hunting eBay for a couple of these movies.
For the show?
Some for the show, and then some that didn't even become part of the show.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell a story now because it's not part of the show.
Right.
But when I was a young man who was a young boy, I was 13 or under. 13, I would say, on this journey of discovering film and wanting to see The Godfather because I knew it would be meaningful to me and I knew it was a big film. I'd heard my mum talk about it. I'd read about The Godfather. I knew everything about The Godfather without being able to see it.
Yeah, it's that osmosis. It's probably like the movie that most people have absorbed via osmosis.
And it would be a movie that now I could know every single detail about the making of and the actual, I could do it. Yeah. That's why I loved watching that TV show.
I was going to say the one with...
Because it was like all the things I knew about the Godfather and the making of in the style of the shittest sitcom I've ever seen in my life.
Could you imagine if we made a sitcom of the episode 1 documentary?
I would love that so much. And I would want the same cast that is in The Godfather to be in it.
Yeah.
I would love the people that did The Offer.
Miles Teller.
Miles Teller is, I guess, Rick McCallum. That's awesome. Yeah. You get the guy that played... the guy that played Francis Ford Coppola.
Who played Francis Ford Coppola?
I can't remember George. He can just be George straight away. He's best friends with him already.
Yeah.
I discovering The Godfather and making a deal with my mum if I read the book The Godfather, because
the Puzo novel, and that's the first two films, isn't it? Essentially,
it's the first film, and then the prequel stuff from Godfather Part 2, the young Vito storyline. And I go, if I promised my mum I read that book, and then she would allow me to see the movie.
What a great policy! That's
and
like, you know what? I think that's
a deal that I struck. It was a deal that I struck.
It's an offer she couldn't refuse.
And then reading the book, and it also having the first sex scene I ever saw. The book is way worse than the movie.
I hear it's a lot hornier.
It's a lot hornier.
A lot more violent.
There's a lot more violent, and there's a whole subplot in there about the woman that Sonny bangs in his mistress that he bangs at the wedding.
The one that gets pregnant, right?
Yeah, Lucy Mancini, I believe, is her name, who then becomes Andy Garcia's mother in part 3. She has a whole storyline where her vagina is humongous. That's right. Her vagina canal is huge. So then
what's
and
Puzo
Sonny's dick
on about?
Was only big enough to satisfy her big vagina.
So did Puzo see himself as Sonny, do you think?
It was a big commentary of America, and it was like, this was a thing about how the mafia can infect everything. So this woman had a giant vagina, and then she finds her soulmate later in the book is a doctor, plastic surgeon who surgeries her vagina to be a more traditional size.
Is that commentary on America
No
as well?
idea. I read it as a 14-year-old going, what the fuck is this? And then I watched the movie, and the movie is like still to this day one of the most transportive film experiences I've ever had. Stuck with me forever. Couldn't find my old copy. I think I only ever had the DVD. I didn't have a VHS.
Yeah.
But because with this show, we were digitizing all these VHS tapes to use in the show.
Yeah.
So me and my editor, Ben Anderson, who's also the editor of Bird Eater, the aforementioned film, we were on a mission to digitize the actual VHS tapes. Many of them were my actual collector items that I found back in the day. Some I had to hunt down. There's one copy of The Godfather that I found of VHS on the internet, and it was an ex-rental copy, and it was from Kempsey, which is
around the corner.
No, Kempsey
up Kempsey in with
Kempsey.
Sorry, I said Kempsey.
From northern New South Wales, Kempsey.
Yeah.
And I saw this VHS copy, and I go, I recognize this ex-rental because it had a very particular genre on top. You know, your drama, the triangular sticker.
Oh, do I know it? I have like a torture, my fingernails were tortured from peeling them off the wrapper and sticking them on the covers.
And you would expect the Godfather one to maybe be a drama or a thriller, maybe.
Or classic, even, if you were being a modern video store.
But it had a specific logo, which was an orange sticker that said
Italian
art house. Said art house or art cult. And I go, that's a sticker you don't see every day. I recognize that sticker. I'm going to buy this version. And then I got the copy, and I go, I was like, if I'm correct, this is amazing. A copy arrived, opened it up, and exactly what I predicted. It was a copy from Mondo Movies. Before it was called Mono Movies, it was called Video Manor in Annandale. And I recognized also on the cover the handwriting for the number.
Was the man that interviewed you?
And
His handwriting?
it was his son who was my manager, Jim. And I texted Jim, I go, you'll never believe this. I'm doing a show. I had to track down a copy of this. It's not in the show. It never made it into the cut of the show. But I found this copy of The Godfather, and I sent him a thing. He's like, you sent this to me, and I went on the biggest nostalgia, like summoned back, where he said, I remember writing that number down. Like as soon as I saw it, my brain went to my hand physically writing it down, and I was like, that's a power of physical media can manifest within someone.
That is the thesis of today's episode. This is the thesis of your live show. Look, if you heard that and you're not compelled to buy a ticket, then you don't have a pulse. That is amazing. Have a pulse.
But it's all, we've digitized all these tapes and all that stuff.
How did it get to Kempsey?
No idea. Well,
that's the next show.
Tracking down this Godfather.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that's the show. It's like a study in genre, a communication through genre of life, but it's also really comedy forward.
Yeah.
Whereas like Refused Classification was very story forward and expressing something forward. This is like really comedy forward. There was a version of this show that was a bit more of like, about some of the sad shit that's gone in my life or the emotional versions of it. There's little bits of that in it, but it's more like, no, it's really comedy forward. I found a spine for this show that's way sillier. About me dreaming of being an actor when I was a kid, that becomes the spine of this show that I'm so happy with, because it's like, and two things. One, I'm an emotional, nostalgic guy, but more importantly, I think I'm really fucking funny and silly, and to be able to express that on a really direct level has been so fun. And I think I fall in love with stand-up comedy again, which is something I never expected in my life.
Is this that road you were talking about earlier? But you were like, there were all these parallels.
And I think they've joined back up. They've been parallel, but I think in the last few years, these two roads have just entwined, and you can exist as all these things as once now, because you have to be a fucking multi-hyphenated person in the arts in this country and in the world right now. So I just go, I guess I'm just a multi-hyphenate of all these things, which is creative and also conversationalist film celebrator,
It's amazing. Alexei, what was the last film that you saw that reminded you why you love cinema? This can be an old or a new movie. But
Wow. The last film I saw that reminded me of why I love cinema... that's such a great question, Angus. I would say... I
just felt like we were in a viral clip for a... that you and I over lunch were just exchanging our favorite, let's call them review guys.
Oh, hey, can I actually tell you what I think it was?
Yeah.
It was a film that I'd never seen before, but after the death of the great documentary filmmaker... Frederick Wiseman. I'd only seen a couple of Frederick Wiseman's films. His last film was Menu Plaisirs, which is a 4-hour documentary about a French restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
But he made like these all-encompassing things, usually about institutions. And I just watched Hospital from 1970, which is...
saw your review.
It just is so... It has like this diegetic atmosphere that just really struck me.
Which hospital is it shot at?
It's a New York hospital in 1969, I believe. The film came out in 1970, but I think it's a 69 hospital. And his films are often about American institutions, and Hospital really struck me.
Does this have anything to do with you rewatching ER?
Yeah, watching ER, watching The Pit, my mum being in hospital for months and months in the last few years. So I've been very much in a hospital landscape for a while. And watching Hospital was just like, God, it's one of the greatest documentaries ever made. First time watch. And documentary was a huge part of my learning. It was what I majored in at film school. And it's like something I really cared deeply about. But so always something in documentary will draw me back. And so now I'm on a path of rediscovery of Frederick Wiseman. It started with High School. I rewatched High School. I think I'd seen High School before. But I bought this Blu-ray box set of early Wiseman films by the BFI Volume 1, Frederick Wiseman. And Hospital was the one that was just like, wow, this is what a great documentary and great cinema can do.
Great answer. And Alexei, the last question I leave everyone with before we are, because look, I did say at the start that we talk for hours about movies, and we are about to actually talk about movies for hours.
Wow, we've hit the 2 hour mark. Wow.
But
2-part episode.
Maybe I'm going to give it 2 more.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's what type, because we'll just have you back.
Yeah, exactly.
And I won't ask you this next time, but I want to know, maybe VHS blows up, maybe it becomes a traveling show. Maybe it's a part of a biopic on your life. Who would you choose if you were EP on the Alexei Toliopoulos film? Who would you like to see portray you?
Wow.
This could be in any medium too. This could be animated. This could be live action. This could be anything. But is there someone you've ever thought that could capture your essence?
Maybe Totoro.
Oh, I love that answer.
Yeah, maybe Totoro, friendly, or
you are the tallest person I know, and you do live in a tree.
Yeah, I live in a tree. I'm half radish or whatever. I don't know who I would love. Maybe, well, obviously the one that struck me most was when I was a teenager and I saw Superbad on the big screen with my friends, and I go, well, that's very much the dynamic of my friends, and I was very much, loudly, overtly, obnoxiously funny, and I was like, well, Jonah Hill, that's me. And I reckon I got recognized as Jonah Hill a lot back then, going like, you look like Jonah Hill. People fucking taking photos of me on the street.
Wait, really? That's awesome.
Maybe that would be very fun.
I think we're ready to accept him with open arms, don't you?
I hope so.
The world's been a little darker without Jonah Hill, I think.
Yeah, I think he's an exceptional actor.
I think he's been the only of the frat pack who's been Academy Award nominated, hasn't he?
Oh, gosh. Maybe, hey.
Was James Franco for 127 Hours?
Oh, he would have been, yeah. He would have been nominated. But I reckon
Wait,
Rogan...
was he also nominated for The Disaster Artist? No.
He would have been. I think so.
Okay.
What about Rogan? Surely he'll get a nomination. He should have been Oscar nominated for
Jobs?
Fabelmans.
And Fabelmans.
Yeah.
I thought he was great as Wozniak.
Yeah, was he nominated for Wozniak? Maybe not.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Damn, frat pack. Let's get that tally up.
Rogan, I think, will be a nominee for lots of things.
Oh, yeah. I just saw he's taking on a third beloved childhood property that after Ninja Turtles and the Muppets, but I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I don't know what it is, but it's of that ilk.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh yeah, he's going to kill that.
Yeah.
Well, Lex, it's been an absolute pleasure having basically what we would have a conversation about without the presence of microphones.
Constant text. We have a constant text thread. I was like, I reckon there hasn't been
You're in the top 4 people I text.
It hasn't been more than 2 days we have texted each other over like our friendship.
If I don't hear from you with a link from like a man in another country doing auditions for a Star Wars movie that's been filmed already, God. I'm going to run to your house.
Guy in the show notes. You have to put him in there.
Yeah, let's stop gatekeeping him.
I think he's fucking so talented.
Yeah.
But also talent that cannot translate to anything.
He looks like the drug dealer in Pulp Fiction almost. He has this long hair.
Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz's character. Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Stoltz. He's got the glasses and the long reddish type hair.
God, he's so talented.
Yeah.
But completely worthless talent.
But that's what we love.
And it's like, and really to show how worthless the talent is, we have a constant group chat, me, you, and Luca, of sending Star Wars things. Not only is the guy only getting 10 likes,
he's getting no likes in the chat.
He's not even getting likes in the chat. You're ignoring it. You and Luca both ignore it. And I have to go, please watch this. This guy's so talented. And then I'm like begging for you guys to click the link to watch them. They're going unliked, unseen. Your little heads don't even pop up next to it when I post it in until I send an AI image of Jabba the Hutt as a woman with huge areolas.
All of this is true, by the way. This isn't real.
There's no exaggeration here. This is actually how it goes. But this man is so talented.
Wait, you've just reminded me. I know we spoke about it, but there was one of the Reddit threads that I saved that just ties into exactly what you said, which I do think would be a perfect note to end on. It is... Oh, wait, please tell me I saved it. Oh, here. I leave you with this. I'd like you just to read out the subject of this Reddit post.
This is from Star Wars Cantina, the subreddit for Star Wars fans. For those who saw Return of the Jedi in cinemas, what was it like to see Leia in the metal bikini for the first time? And the image of Leia in the famous metal bikini, and then the giant, big, fat Jabba the Hutt right behind her.
That's why I love fandom.
How many upvotes?
3,100.
Amazing. Amazing.
Folks, that's why we love movies. See you at the movies, guys.
Love you, babe.